I saw my granddaughter swap my pills on a Tuesday afternoon while Wheel of Fortune played in the background. Lily stood on her tiptoes beside my kitchen counter, her small fingers working fast. She unscrewed the orange prescription bottle with my name on it. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. Gemma Teller, 68, digoxin 0. 25 million, and poured the white tablets into her pink Hello Kitty backpack. Then she pulled out identical-looking pills from a Ziploc bag and filled my bottle back up. "What you doing, sweetheart?" I asked from my armchair, my voice casual though my chest had already tightened. She jumped. The bottle rattled in her hand. "Nothing, Grandma. Just playing. Playing with Grandma's medicine?" Her eyes went wide. She was 7 years old, still young enough that lying made her face turn red. "Mommy said these are your new pills. From the pharmacy. She said to switch them because the old ones are making you sick." The air in my living room felt thick suddenly. Outside, a lawnmower hummed 3 houses down. Mrs. Patterson's dog barked at a squirrel. Normal sounds on a normal day in Toledo, Ohio, where I'd lived for 43 years. "Mommy said that?" Lily nodded fast, her blonde ponytail bouncing. "She said you'd forget, so I should do it when you're watching TV. She said it's helping." My hands were shaking. I set down my coffee mug carefully on the side table, next to the photo of my late husband Tom. He'd been dead 2 years now. Heart attack at 66, right in our garage while changing the oil in his truck. I found him there, still holding the wrench. "Can Grandma see the bag, honey?" She handed it over without hesitation. Children that age don't understand conspiracy. They just do what their mothers tell them. The Ziploc had maybe 30 pills inside, all white and round, identical to my heart medication. No label, no pharmacy markings, just loose pills in a sandwich bag. "Does Mommy give you these bags often?" "Every Sunday after church." Lily smiled like she'd just told me about a gold star on her homework. "She says it's our special secret, that you're getting better because of me." I looked at this child, my only grandchild, daughter of my only son, David. She had Tom's green eyes and my late mother's stubborn chin. She liked pepperoni pizza and hated broccoli and wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. And her mother had turned her into a weapon. "You're such a good helper," I managed to say. "Why don't you go play in the backyard? Grandma needs to make a phone call." After she ran outside, I sat there holding that Ziploc bag, my heart doing things it wasn't supposed to do. The digoxin was supposed to regulate my heartbeat, keep it steady after the arrhythmia diagnosis 3 years ago. Dr. Morrison had been very clear. Miss a dose and I'd feel it. Take too much and I'd end up in the ER. But these pills weren't mine. I'd raised David by myself after Tom's first heart attack when David was 12. Worked 2 jobs, morning shift at the bakery, evening shift doing bookkeeping for Myers Hardware. I paid for his college, his law school, his wedding to Rachel 4 years ago. I babysat Lily every Tuesday and Thursday, so Rachel could have me time. I hosted every holiday dinner in this house, the house Tom and I bought in 1983 for $40,000, now worth $240,000 according to the last property assessment. I never asked them for money, never complained when David stopped calling as often. Never said a word when Rachel started making comments about how forgetful I was getting, how I repeated stories, how I'd left the stove on once, though I knew I hadn't. I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and called Frank Costa. Frank and I went to high school together in 1974. He'd been a pharmacist at Walgreens for 40 years before retiring last spring. He lived 2 streets over with his wife Margaret, and we played cards every Friday night. "Gemma?" His voice came through warm and familiar. "What's wrong? Can you come over now? I need you to look at something. Give me 5 minutes." He arrived in 4, still wearing his gardening gloves, dirt on his khakis. I handed him the Ziploc bag without explanation. Frank held it up to the light from my kitchen window, squinting through his bifocals. He opened the bag and sniffed. Then he took 1 pill out and examined it closely, turning it over, checking for imprints. "Where'd you get these?" His voice had changed, flat, professional. My granddaughter. She's been swapping them with my digoxin. Her mother told her to. Frank looked at me for a long moment. Then he looked back at the pills. I need to test these, Gemma. Right now. I still have access to the lab equipment at the pharmacy. What do you think they are? He didn't answer, just carefully sealed the bag, put it in his pocket, and headed for the door. Frank? He turned back. His face had gone pale. Don't take any more of your medication until I call you. And Gemma? Don't drink or eat anything Rachel gives you, nothing. He left before I could ask why. I stood in my kitchen, listening to Lily singing in the backyard. Some song about rainbows and unicorns. Through the window, I could see her on the swing set Tom built 5 years ago, pumping her legs, her head thrown back in joy. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Picking up Lily in 10 min. Thanks for watching her, Mom. You're the best. Mom. She'd started calling me that after the wedding. I'd felt honored then. Accepted. Now that word felt like a knife. I texted back. No problem, sweetheart. The lies we tell to stay alive. Frank called 2 hours later. I was sitting in the same armchair, watching the same spot on the kitchen counter where Lily had stood. The sun had moved across my living room floor. The Wheel of Fortune episode had ended. Another had started. Gemma. His voice cracked. I need you to sit down. I'm already sitting. These pills. They're not digoxin. What are they? Silence. Then, warfarin. 10 milligrams each. The room tilted. I gripped the armrest. That's a blood thinner. You're already on digoxin for your heart. If you'd been taking these pills instead, or God forbid, in addition to your real medication. He stopped. Gemma, your blood wouldn't clot. Any internal bleeding? Any fall? Any bump? How long would it take? 2 weeks, maybe 3. You'd feel tired first, then bruising, then internal hemorrhaging. By the time you got to the ER, they'd think it was just your heart giving out. Natural causes for a 68-year-old woman with a cardiac history. I thought about the bruise on my hip from last week. I'd bumped into the bathroom counter, nothing serious. But it had turned purple and yellow, larger than it should have been. I'd mentioned it to Rachel when she came over for coffee. She'd smiled and said, You bruise so easily now, Mom. It's just age. Frank? I said quietly. She's been doing this for a while, hasn't she? I think so. Let me check something. I heard him typing on a computer. When was your last blood panel done? 6 months ago. Dr. Morrison ordered it. More typing. Gemma, I'm looking at the pharmacy records. Rachel picked up a warfarin prescription 3 months ago. It was written for her, not you, but the dosage is way too high for someone her age and weight. She's not taking it herself. She's a therapist, Frank. Occupational therapy. She works with stroke patients. She knows exactly what blood thinners do. Yes, he said. She does. Through my front window, I saw Rachel's white Lexus pull into my driveway. She got out, smiling, wearing yoga pants and a loose sweater. She waved at me through the window. I waved back. I have to go, I told Frank. Gemma, we need to call the police. Not yet. What? I need to know why first. I hung up. Rachel came through my front door like she always did, calling out cheerfully, Lilybug, time to go, sweetie. She turned to me. How was she today? Perfect, I said. She's always perfect. Rachel smiled. It was a beautiful smile. She had perfect teeth, perfect skin, perfect everything. That's what I'd thought when David first brought her home 4 years ago. Finally, someone good enough for my son. You look tired, Mom, she said, coming closer. Are you feeling okay? Just a little run down. You should rest more. At your age, you really need to listen to your body. She patted my shoulder. Her hand felt cold through my blouse. Lily ran in from the backyard, grass stains on her knees. Did you have fun with Grandma? Rachel asked. Yes, we played and I helped her with her medicine. Rachel's smile froze for half a second. Then she laughed. Oh, that's nice, honey. Grandma's lucky to have such a good helper. She looked at me. I looked back. Same time Thursday? I asked. Of course. Rachel picked up Lily's backpack, the one that had held my death in a Ziploc bag. We wouldn't miss it for the world. After they left, I locked the door and walked to my bedroom. I opened the drawer of my nightstand and pulled out the real bottle of digoxin. The pills inside looked identical to the ones Lily had swapped. That was the point. I thought about my son David, who worked 60 hours a week at his law firm downtown, who trusted his wife completely, who called me every Sunday like clockwork but never visited unless Rachel came along. I thought about family dinners where Rachel always insisted on cooking, always served my plate first. I thought about the life insurance policy Tom and I took out 30 years ago. David was the beneficiary. $500,000. I thought about the house I lived in, worth $240,000, with David's name on the deed alongside mine since Tom died. And I thought about a 7-year-old girl who believed she was helping her grandmother get better. My hands had stopped shaking. I picked up my phone and called Frank back. "I need you to document everything," I said. "Pictures of the pills, test results, everything. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to find out exactly what Rachel wants, and then I'm going to take it away from her." I spent Wednesday morning going through my medical records, every paper, every receipt, every appointment card from the past 2 years. I spread them across my dining room table like evidence at a crime scene. The pattern emerged slowly, then all at once. It started 18 months ago. A prescription for iron supplements that I never asked for. Dr. Morrison's signature at the bottom, but I didn't remember that appointment. I called her office. "Mrs. Teller?" The receptionist's voice was chirpy. "Let me check." "Oh yes, that was a phone consultation. Your daughter-in-law called on your behalf. You were feeling fatigued." "Rachel called?" "Yes, she said you were too tired to come in. Dr. Morrison approved the supplements as a precaution." I hung up and stared at the prescription. Iron supplements can mask internal bleeding. They keep your blood count looking normal while you slowly hemorrhage inside. Next item, a referral to a neurologist from 4 months ago. I'd never gone to any neurologist. I called that office too. "We have you down for 3 missed appointments, Mrs. Teller," the scheduler said, sounding annoyed. "Your daughter-in-law has called each time to cancel. She said you were having memory issues and confusion. We sent the cancellation confirmations to your email. What email address do you have on file?" She read it off. It wasn't mine. It was close. GemmaTeller688@gmail.com instead of my actual GemmaTeller1956 Gmail.com, but not mine. Who set up that email? Your daughter-in-law provided it when she made the initial appointment. She said you'd just gotten a new phone and were having trouble with technology. I'd had the same phone for 3 years. I opened my laptop and tried to log into that fake email account. The password reset went to a phone number I didn't recognize. Rachel had created an entire digital version of me, one that was confused, forgetful, declining. My coffee had gone cold. I made a fresh cup and kept digging. Bank statements next. Tom had left me $127,000 in savings when he died. I'd been careful with it, living on my Social Security and his pension. The balance should have been around $115,000 by now. It was $89,000. I called the bank. They transferred me 3 times before I got someone who could help. "Mrs. Teller, I'm showing regular withdrawals over the past 14 months, the representative said. "Cash withdrawals of $2,000 every month from the branch on Summit Street. I've never been to that branch." Typing sounds. "The withdrawals were made with your debit card and PIN. Do you have security footage?" "I can request it, but it'll take a few days. May I ask why you're concerned?" "Someone's been stealing from me." More typing, then silence. "Mrs. Teller, I'm also showing that you added an authorized user to your account 13 months ago. Rachel Teller. She has full access and her own card." My hand tightened around the phone. "I never authorized that. We have your signature on file. Can you email me a copy?" "Of course." The document came through 5 minutes later. There was my signature at the bottom, but it looked wrong. The G in Gemma was too loopy. I always made it sharp, angular. Tom used to joke that I signed my name like I was mad at the paper. I pulled out my checkbook and compared. Definitely not my signature. Rachel had stolen $26,000 from me over 14 months. She'd forged medical documents, created fake email accounts, and built a paper trail showing I was mentally declining. And she'd trained my granddaughter to swap my medication with blood thinners that would kill me in 2 weeks. The house phone rang. David's number. "Hi, Mom." His voice sounded strained. "How are you feeling?" Fine, honey, why? Rachel mentioned you seemed really tired yesterday. She's worried about you. I looked at the documents spread across my table, the fake prescriptions, the forged signature, the missing $26,000. She's very thoughtful, I said carefully. She is. He sighed. Mom, I need to ask you something, and I don't want you to get upset. My chest tightened. What is it? Have you been feeling confused lately? Forgetting things? There it was. Rachel's groundwork paying off. Why do you ask? You called me last week asking if I remembered Thanksgiving dinner at Aunt Paula's house. Mom, Aunt Paula died 6 years ago. I had never made that call. David, that wasn't me. I talked to you. We had a whole conversation. You sounded confused about what year it was. What number did I call from? Silence, then typing. Your cell phone. What's my cell phone number? He rattled it off. It was correct. David, check your call log. What time did I supposedly call you? More typing. Last Tuesday, 2:47 p.m. I opened my own phone and pulled up my call history. Tuesday at 2:47 p.m., I'd been at the dentist. I had the appointment card to prove it, and Dr. Yang's office would have records. I was getting a root canal at that exact time, I said. I have witnesses. Long silence. That's impossible, David said finally. I talked to you. You talked to someone using my phone number. Did you actually look at your screen to verify, or did you just assume? He trailed off. Rachel told me you'd called. She handed me her phone. I just answered. My son, the lawyer who made his living analyzing details and finding inconsistencies, had been played. David, I need you to come over. Alone. Don't tell Rachel. Mom, what's going on? Just come, please. He arrived 40 minutes later. I'd spent the time organizing the evidence into neat stacks, medical documents in one pile, bank statements in another, the fake email printouts in a third. David stood in my dining room, his suit jacket still on from work, his face pale as he read through everything. This can't be right, he kept saying. There has to be an explanation. There is. Your wife has been systematically building a case that I'm mentally incompetent while stealing my money and poisoning me. He looked up sharply. Poisoning you? I showed him Frank's lab report on the pills, explained about Lily swapping my medication, watched his face crumble as he understood what his wife had turned his daughter into. No, he shook his head. Rachel wouldn't. She's a healthcare professional. She helps people. She's stealing from me. She forged my signature. She created fake medical records. What more proof do you need? These could be mistakes, misunderstandings, but his voice had lost conviction. I pulled out the final document I'd found that morning, the one that made everything clear. Do you know what this is? I handed it to him. He read it, his face going from pale to gray. This is a power of attorney. With my signature, or someone's version of my signature, filed 3 weeks ago. It gives Rachel complete control over my finances and medical decisions if I'm deemed incapacitated. I never saw this. You weren't supposed to. Look at the witness signatures. He did. Margaret Chen and Robert Harrison. He looked up. I don't know these people. Neither do I. I think she paid them, or they don't exist at all. David sat down heavily in my dining room chair. He looked at the house around him, the same house where he'd grown up, where his father had taught him to ride a bike in the driveway, where we'd celebrated every birthday and holiday. The house, he said suddenly. Dad put my name on the deed. When he died, yes, we're co-owners. Rachel would need both our signatures to sell it, unless you were incapacitated and she had power of attorney. He looked at me with horror. Mom, she's planning to have you declared incompetent. And then? He didn't say it. He didn't have to. A car door slammed outside. We both looked through the window. Rachel's white Lexus in my driveway. Lily skipping up the walkway in her school uniform. She's early, David whispered. Thursday babysitting, I said. I forgot. Rachel's key turned in my lock. She'd had a key since the wedding. I'd given it to her myself. She came in smiling, Lily bouncing beside her. Hi, Mom. Hi, honey. Rachel kissed David's cheek. I didn't know you'd be here. This is a nice surprise. She was perfect. Completely normal, not a single tell. David stared at his wife like he'd never seen her before. Grandma! Lily ran to hug me. Can we make cookies? Of course, sweetheart. Rachel looked at the papers spread across my dining room table. Her smile flickered for just a second. What's all this? Just organizing some old medical records, I said. Spring cleaning. That's good. She picked up Lily's backpack. Lily, honey, did you bring the special medicine for Grandma? The room went cold. Lily nodded enthusiastically. It's in my bag. Rachel pulled out the familiar Ziploc bag, filled with white pills. She held it up casually, normally, like it was vitamins. Dr. Morrison's office called me yesterday, Rachel said, looking right at me. They said you missed your follow-up appointment last month. I picked up your new prescription for you. She set the bag on my counter. I'll put these in your pill organizer so you don't forget to take them. She moved toward my kitchen, where my actual digoxin was stored. David stood up. Rachel. She turned, eyebrows raised. Yes? What's in that bag? Mom's heart medication. Digoxin. Why? Let me see the prescription bottle. Rachel's smile tightened. It's in the car. The pharmacy was out of bottles, so they just gave me the pills in a bag. You know how short-staffed they've been. Which pharmacy? The CVS on Talmadge Road. David, why are you interrogating me? He walked to her and took the Ziploc bag from her hand. She let him, but something changed in her eyes. Something cold and calculating. I'll have these tested, David said quietly. Tested? Have you lost your mind? No, but I'm starting to think someone else has. Rachel looked from David to me and back again. Her smile had vanished completely. Lily, she said, her voice sharp, get your backpack. We're leaving. But Grandma was going to... Now. Lily's face crumpled. She grabbed her backpack and ran to the door. Rachel followed, but at the threshold she turned back. Her face had transformed. No more warmth, no more fake concern. Just cold, pure hatred. You'll regret this, she said softly. Both of you. The door slammed. David and I stood in my living room, listening to her car peel out of the driveway. He looked down at the Ziploc bag in his hand. I need to call Frank. He already tested them. They're warfarin, 10 milligrams each. David's hand started shaking. The bag of pills rattled. She was going to kill you. Yes. And she was using our daughter to do it. Yes. He sat down on my couch, still holding the murder weapon his wife had brought into my house, into my life. What do we do now? He asked. I thought about Rachel's face as she left, the mask dropping, the threat clear. Now, I said, we find out exactly what she's planned, before she has a chance to finish it. David moved back into my house that night. He brought one suitcase and his laptop. When Rachel called his phone 14 times in 2 hours, he finally turned it off. She's texting now, he said, staring at his dark screen, saying I'm overreacting, that we should talk like adults. Are you going to? I don't know who I married. He looked up at me. How did I not see it? I didn't have an answer for that. Friday morning, Frank came over with more test results. He'd had a colleague run a full analysis on the pills Rachel brought. It's worse than we thought, Frank said, spreading printouts across my kitchen table. These aren't just warfarin. They're also laced with digoxin. Actual digoxin, but triple your prescribed dose. David leaned forward. What would that do? The warfarin would thin her blood to dangerous levels. The excess digoxin would cause heart arrhythmia. Together? Frank looked at me. Gemma, you would have had a massive heart attack within days. And with your blood unable to clot, any internal damage would have been catastrophic. It would look natural, I said quietly. Exactly. A 68-year-old woman with existing heart problems. No one would question it. David stood up and walked to my kitchen window. His shoulders were shaking. There's something else, Frank said. I called in a favor at the coroner's office. Had them pull Tom's autopsy report. I went cold. Why? Because Rachel married David 3 months after Tom died. That's very fast for a grieving family. He handed me a manila folder. I didn't want to open it. Tom's death was ruled a heart attack, Frank continued, but the coroner noted unusually high levels of digoxin in his system. Above therapeutic range, they attributed it to his existing prescription, assumed he'd accidentally double-dosed. The room tilted. Tom was careful with his medication. I know, but there was no investigation because there was no reason to suspect anything. He had heart disease. He was on digoxin. His death made sense. David turned from the window. Are you saying Rachel killed my father? I'm saying the pattern matches, and 3 months later, she was dating his son. I thought about those 3 months after Tom died. How David had been so broken. How Rachel had appeared at the funeral, a friend of a friend, offering condolences. How she'd called to check on David. How she'd brought us meals. How grateful we'd been for her kindness. How perfectly she'd positioned herself. She saw an opportunity, I whispered. A widower with money, a house, a mother who wouldn't live forever. Frank nodded. I think she's done this before. I'm checking into her background now. Her previous jobs, her marriage history. She told us she'd never been married, David said. Let me verify that. After Frank left, David and I sat in silence. The house felt different now, contaminated. Every surface Rachel had touched, every meal she'd prepared, every kind word she'd spoken, all of it suspect. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Mom, I'm sorry about yesterday. I was stressed. Can we please talk? Lily misses you. I showed David. Don't answer, he said. But another text came through. I'm worried about you. David isn't thinking clearly right now. Please let me help. Then another. Dr. Morrison's office called. They're concerned you haven't been taking your medication properly. They want to schedule an evaluation. I called Dr. Morrison's office directly. We didn't call anyone, the receptionist said, and we don't have any concerns about your medication compliance, Mrs. Teller. Rachel was still playing the game, still building her narrative of my incompetence. Saturday morning, I found the envelope. It was in my mailbox, hand-delivered, no stamp. My name written in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside, copies of legal documents. A conservatorship petition filed in probate court by Rachel Teller, requesting full guardianship over Gemma Teller due to diminished mental capacity. The hearing was scheduled for Tuesday, 3 days away. She filed this 2 weeks ago, David said, reading over my shoulder. Before any of this came out. There were medical affidavits attached. Dr. Morrison's signature at the bottom of statements I'd never made, neurological assessments from doctors I'd never seen, each one painting me as confused, forgetful, a danger to myself, all forgeries. If she'd succeeded in killing you before the hearing, David said slowly, no one would have questioned it. You'd have been classified as mentally unfit, and then you'd have died of natural causes. Case closed. And if I'd survived to the hearing? She'd have shown up with Lily, played the concerned daughter-in-law, and had you declared incompetent anyway. Either way, she wins. I sat down at my kitchen table, Tom's chair, the one he'd sat in for 40 years. She planned everything, I said. Every detail. David's phone rang. His lawyer, finally calling back. He stepped into the other room to talk. I looked around my kitchen, at the refrigerator covered in Lily's drawings, at the calendar with Tuesday circled in red, my supposed competency hearing, at the pill bottle on the counter, the real digoxin that I hadn't taken since Tuesday, afraid Rachel had somehow tampered with it too. I'd lived in this house for 43 years, raised my son here, buried my husband from here, and now a woman I'd welcomed into my family was trying to take it all. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Margaret Chen, Lily's other grandmother, Rachel's mother. I hadn't seen Margaret in months, though we'd been friendly when David and Rachel first married. We'd had lunch a few times, talked about the wedding, shared grandparenting stories. I opened the door. Margaret looked older than I remembered, thinner, worn. Gemma, she said quietly. Can I come in? I let her in. David came out of the other room, phone still in hand, and froze when he saw her. Mrs. Chen, he said carefully. David. She looked at both of us. I came to warn you. Rachel knows I'm here. She'll be furious. Warn us about what? Margaret sat down without being asked. Her hands were shaking. My daughter isn't well, she said. She hasn't been well for a long time. I should have said something years ago, but I thought marriage might help her, that having a family might. She trailed off. Might what? I asked. Rachel's been married before, twice. Both husbands died within 3 years. Margaret looked at me with tears in her eyes. Heart attacks, both of them. They were young, healthy. The kitchen felt too small suddenly. Why didn't you tell anyone? David's voice was barely controlled. I had no proof. The police investigated both deaths. Natural causes, they said. And Rachel always seemed so devastated. Such a loving wife. Margaret wiped her eyes. But then she married you, David. And I saw her looking at your mother the same way she'd looked at her other in-laws, like they were obstacles. Where are they now? I asked. The previous in-laws? Dead. All of them. The first husband's mother died 6 months after he did. House fire. The second husband's father had a stroke 3 months after the funeral. My blood turned to ice. You think Rachel killed them too? I think my daughter is very good at making deaths look natural, and I think she's been planning Gemma's death since before she married you, David. David sat down hard. Why are you telling us now? Because yesterday, Rachel asked me to testify at Gemma's competency hearing. She wanted me to say I'd witnessed Gemma having memory problems, confused episodes. Margaret looked at me, and when I said I wouldn't lie, she told me that if I didn't help her, I'd never see Lily again. She threatened you with your own grandchild. That's when I knew she'd gone too far, that I couldn't protect her anymore. Margaret pulled an envelope from her purse. This is everything I have. Bank records showing the insurance payouts from her previous husbands. Photos of her with them. Death certificates. It's not proof of murder, but it's a pattern. She handed the envelope to David. There's one more thing, Margaret said. Rachel has a storage unit, Unit 347 at the facility on Monroe Street. I have the code. She wrote numbers on a napkin. I don't know what's in there, but she pays $200 a month for it. Has for 5 years. After Margaret left, David and I sat in silence. We need to call the police, he finally said. And tell them what? That we think Rachel might have killed her previous husbands? That she's been slowly poisoning me? We have pills and forged documents, David. Not a murder confession. So what do? I looked at the napkin with the storage unit code. We find out what she's hiding. We went to the storage facility at midnight. David drove. I sat in the passenger seat with Margaret's napkin in my hand, the code memorized but written down anyway. My hands weren't shaking anymore. The facility was on Monroe Street, next to an abandoned textile mill. Security cameras pointed at the entrance, but the units themselves were in shadow. David parked 3 spaces down from Unit 347. If we get caught, he started, we're family. We have the code. We're picking up something Rachel asked us to get. I looked at him. You're a lawyer. You know how to spin it. He nodded, but his jaw was tight. The code Margaret gave us worked. The metal door rolled up with a grinding sound that seemed too loud in the quiet night. David turned on his phone flashlight. The unit was 10 by 10 feet, organized, everything labeled in plastic bins with neat handwriting. Rachel's handwriting. The first bin, James Personal Effects, James Whitmore, Rachel's first husband. I opened it. Photos of a young man with dark hair and a kind smile. Wedding pictures. A watch, a wallet, a death certificate dated April 2019. Cause, cardiac arrest. Underneath the photos, a baggie of white pills, digoxin. Second bin, Marcus, Personal Effects. Marcus Chen, second husband. Same contents. Photos, wallet, death certificate dated November 2020. Cause, cardiac arrest. Another baggie of pills. Third bin, insurance documents. I pulled it open. Life insurance policies. James Whitmore, $300,000 paid to Rachel Whitmore. Marcus Chen, $450,000 paid to Rachel Chen, both collected within weeks of their deaths. She kept everything, David whispered. She kept evidence of what she did. Trophies, I said. She's proud of it. Fourth bin, medical records. I opened it and found files for people I'd never heard of. Eleanor Whitmore, James's mother. Death certificate dated September 2019, 5 months after James. Cause, smoke inhalation, house fire. Richard Chen, Marcus's father. Death certificate dated February 2021, 3 months after Marcus. Cause, stroke. Both files had handwritten notes in the margins. Rachel's notes, dosage amounts, timeline observations, symptom progressions. She'd documented her own murders. Jesus Christ, David breathed. Fifth bin, labeled simply, Gemma. My hands went cold as I opened it. Inside, copies of my medical records, the forged power of attorney, the conservatorship petition, bank statements showing the $26,000 in withdrawals, a folder marked Timeline with dates and notes. March 2024, begin medication substitution, monitor for symptoms. April 2024. Increase blood thinner dosage. Bruising should appear. May 2024. File conservatorship petition. Establish pattern of confusion. June 2024. Final phase. Heart failure expected within 2 weeks of maximum dosage. Today was May 18th. I was in the establish confusion phase, 2 weeks away from the final phase. At the bottom of the bin, a life insurance policy I didn't know existed. $500,000. Beneficiary, David Teller. Secondary beneficiary, Rachel Teller. She took this out on you 3 months ago, David said, reading over my shoulder. Forged your signature on the application. I looked at the date, February 14th, Valentine's Day. While I'd been babysitting Lily so David and Rachel could have a romantic dinner, there was one more item in the bin, a small journal. I opened it. Rachel's handwriting filled the pages. Not notes this time. Narrative. Story. Gemma suspects nothing. She's so trusting. So grateful for my help. It's almost boring how easy this is. She actually thanked me yesterday for organizing her pills. She thanked me for killing her. I flipped to another page. David is completely blind, just like James was, just like Marcus was. Men are so easy to manipulate when you're pretty and sweet. They never look deeper. They never question. Another page, dated last week. Margaret is becoming a problem. She's asking too many questions about my previous marriages. I may need to handle her after Gemma is gone. Make it look like grief. Suicide, maybe. She's been depressed since Dad died. David made a sound in his throat. She's planning to kill her own mother. The final entry was from yesterday. David knows. Gemma knows. They confronted me. I saw it in their eyes. This is going to be more complicated than I planned. But I've been here before. I can fix this. I always do. I closed the journal. We spent an hour photographing everything with our phones. Every document. Every page of the journal. Every death certificate. Every handwritten note. Then we put it all back exactly as we'd found it. We need to call the police now, David said as we drove away. This is evidence of multiple murders. Not yet. Mom, Rachel knows we're on to her. She said it herself in the journal. If we go to the police now, she'll disappear. She has money. She has time. She'll take Lily and vanish, and we'll never see either of them again. So what's your plan? I looked out at the dark streets of Toledo, the city where I'd lived my entire adult life, where I'd raised my son, where I'd buried my husband, where Rachel had killed my husband. We're going to that conservatorship hearing on Tuesday, I said, and we're going to let Rachel think she's won. Sunday morning, I called Rachel. Mom. She sounded surprised, cautious. I want to talk, I said. Just you and me. Can you come over this afternoon? Silence. Then, of course, I'd like that. She arrived at 2 o'clock, dressed nicely, hair perfect, the mask back in place. Thank you for calling, she said as I let her in. I've been so worried. I know David showed you some documents, some concerning things. She sat on my couch, nodded sympathetically. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Mom. I can explain everything. I'm sure you can. My only concern has been your health, your well-being. I love you, you know that. I looked at this woman, this beautiful, charming monster who'd killed at least 5 people. Maybe more. I know the hearing is Tuesday, I said. The conservatorship. Rachel's face showed perfect concern. That's just a precaution, to make sure you're protected, that no one can take advantage of you. I understand. And I want you to know, I paused, made my voice shake slightly. I think maybe you're right. Maybe I do need help. I've been so confused lately. Her eyes sharpened. You have? Sometimes I can't remember what day it is, or if I've taken my medication. I looked down at my hands. It scares me. Rachel moved closer, put her hand on mine. It felt cold. It's going to be okay, Mom. I'll take care of everything. That's what family does. Will you still let me see Lily? Of course. You're her grandmother. Nothing will change. You'll just have help managing things. The house, your money, your medical care, all of it. That sounds nice. I smiled at her. I'm tired of worrying. Then don't worry anymore. Just let me handle it. She stayed for an hour. We talked about Lily, about the weather, about nothing important. She was relaxed, confident. She thought she'd won. After she left, David came out of the bedroom where he'd been listening. "She bought it," he said. "Of course she did. She thinks I'm a confused old woman who's finally giving up." I looked at my son. "Tuesday at the hearing, I need you to act devastated, defeated, like you've accepted that your mother is incompetent. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to be exactly what she expects. Confused, forgetful, a little scared." I smiled. "Right up until the moment I destroy her." Monday night, Frank came over with the final piece. "I contacted the FBI," he said. "Their white-collar crimes division. Told them I had evidence of insurance fraud and possible serial murder. They're sending agents to the hearing tomorrow. Will they arrest her there? If we give them enough evidence. But Gemma, you need to understand. This is dangerous. If Rachel suspects anything..." "She won't. She's too busy celebrating." David's phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "See you tomorrow. Everything's going to be fine. Trust me." The three of us looked at each other. "Tomorrow," I said. "She pays for all of it." The probate courthouse on Jefferson Avenue was smaller than I expected. Cold marble floors, fluorescent lights that hummed, 3 rows of wooden benches outside courtroom C. Rachel arrived early. She wore a navy suit and pearls, hair in a soft bun. She looked like the perfect concerned daughter-in-law. "Mom," she said, taking my arm gently, "how are you feeling?" "A little confused," I said, making my voice waver. "I'm not sure why we're here. We talked about this yesterday, remember? The judge just wants to make sure you're being taken care of properly." "Oh, yes, I think I remember." Rachel smiled at David. He stood stiff beside me, his face carefully blank. "This is for the best," Rachel said. "For all of us." Margaret Chen sat 3 benches back. She wouldn't look at her daughter. Rachel hadn't noticed her yet. At 9 o'clock, a bailiff called us into the courtroom. Judge Patricia Wen presiding. She was maybe 50, with steel gray hair and sharp eyes. Rachel's lawyer spoke first, James Morrison, expensive suit, practiced sympathy. "Your Honor, we're here today because Mrs. Gemma Teller, age 68, has been experiencing significant cognitive decline. Her daughter-in-law, Mrs. Rachel Teller, is petitioning for conservatorship to protect Mrs. Teller's interests and ensure proper medical care." He presented documents, the forged medical affidavits, the neurologist reports from doctors I'd never seen, photos of me at the grocery store with captions claiming confusion. "Mrs. Teller has repeatedly forgotten to take her medication," Morrison continued. "She's become disoriented about dates and times. Her son, David Teller, has witnessed these episodes firsthand and supports this petition." Judge Wen looked at David. "Mr. Teller, is this accurate?" David hesitated. This was the moment. He was supposed to lie, to play along. He looked at his wife, then at me. "No, Your Honor," he said quietly. "None of it is accurate." Rachel's head snapped toward him. "David, my mother is not incompetent. She's not confused. She's being systematically poisoned by my wife." The courtroom went silent. Morrison jumped up. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular." "Sit down," Judge Wen said. Her voice cut like glass. "Mr. Teller, that's a serious accusation. I have proof." David pulled out his phone. "Photos from a storage unit my wife maintains on Monroe Street, Unit 347. Inside are detailed records of how she's been poisoning my mother with blood thinners and excess heart medication. There's also evidence of 2 previous husbands who died under suspicious circumstances." Rachel stood up. Her face had gone white. "He's lying. He's been under stress." "Sit down, Mrs. Teller." 2 men in dark suits entered from the back of the courtroom, FBI badges visible. "Special Agents Carver and Liu," the taller one said. "We're here on a related federal investigation." Judge Wen looked at them, then at me. "Mrs. Teller, are you able to speak for yourself?" I stood up. My hands were steady. "Your Honor, I'm perfectly competent. My daughter-in-law has been forging medical documents, stealing from my bank account, and attempting to murder me. She's done this before, to at least 2 other men and their parents." Rachel's mask finally cracked. "You stupid old bitch. You were supposed to be dead by now." Morrison grabbed her arm. "Mrs. Teller, I strongly advise..." She shook him off. 3 months. That's all I needed. 3 more months and the life insurance would have paid out, but you had to ruin it, just like you've ruined everything. Mrs. Teller, Judge Wen's voice was ice. You're confessing to attempted murder in my courtroom? She deserved it. She's useless. A drain on everyone around her. Rachel pointed at me. David would have been fine without her. The house would have been ours. The money would have been ours. She's just an old woman taking up space. David made a sound like something breaking. Rachel turned on him. Don't look at me like that. You were happy to cash those insurance checks when your father died. You bought that car with his money. Took that vacation to Italy. You benefited just fine. You killed my father. David's voice was hollow. He was dying anyway. I just helped him along. Saved everyone the trouble of watching him waste away. She laughed. And you never suspected. None of you did. You were all so grateful for my help. Agent Carver stepped forward. Rachel Teller, you're under arrest for attempted murder, insurance fraud, and suspicion of multiple homicides. Rachel lunged at me. This is your fault. You should have just died quietly. David caught her, held her back. She screamed and fought against him. I gave you everything, she shrieked at him. I was perfect for you. I made you happy. And you're choosing her? You murdered my father, David said. His voice was shaking. You were going to murder my mother. You used my daughter as a weapon. Lily is mine. Mine. You'll never see her again. Mrs. Chen? Judge Wen looked at Margaret, who'd moved to the front of the courtroom. Do you have something to add? Margaret stood. Your Honor, I'm Rachel's mother. I've suspected for years that she was responsible for her previous husband's deaths. I should have reported it. I didn't. That's on me. She looked at her daughter. But I won't let her hurt anyone else. I'll testify to everything I know. And I'm filing for custody of my granddaughter. Rachel's face contorted. You're dead to me. You hear me? Dead. Better dead to you than actually dead, Margaret said quietly. The agents handcuffed Rachel. She was still screaming as they let her out. You'll see. I'll get out. I always get out. And when I do, all of you... The courtroom doors closed. Her voice cut off. Judge Wen looked at me. Mrs. Teller, I'm dismissing this petition. I'm also ordering a full investigation into the documents filed in this case. Mr. Morrison, you'll be hearing from the state bar. The lawyer had gone gray. Thank you, Your Honor, I said. Outside the courthouse, David sat on the stone steps with his head in his hands. Margaret stood nearby, giving him space. Frank appeared with Lily. He'd picked her up from school at my request. The little girl ran to her father. Daddy, where's Mommy? David pulled her close. Mommy had to go away for a while, sweetheart. Is she coming back? He looked at me over Lily's head. His eyes were destroyed. No, he said. She's not. Lily started crying. David held her, his shoulders shaking with his own tears. I watched my son break apart, watched him realize that his entire marriage had been a lie, that the woman he'd loved was a monster, that his father had been murdered, that he'd been a pawn in a game he never knew he was playing. Margaret sat down beside him. I'm so sorry, David, for all of it. She used Lily, he whispered. She turned my daughter into... Lily didn't know, I said firmly. She thought she was helping. She was innocent in all of this. But the damage can be healed. We'll make sure of it. Agent Carver approached. Mrs. Teller, we'll need your full statement, and we'll need access to that storage unit. Of course, based on what we've heard today, we'll be investigating the deaths of James Whitmore, Marcus Chen, Thomas Teller, and their family members. This is now a serial murder case. The words hung in the air. Serial murder. Rachel had killed at least 5 people, maybe more, and she'd almost added me to the list. Frank drove me home. David and Lily followed in his car. Margaret came too. We sat in my living room, the same room where this had all started, where I'd seen Lily swap my pills, where Frank had told me I was being poisoned, where everything had changed. What happens now? David asked. Now you heal, I said. You and Lily both. You go to therapy. You rebuild. You learn to trust again. And you? I looked around my house. Tom's chair. Our wedding photo on the mantel. 43 years of life in these walls. I live, I said simply. That's the best revenge there is. Rachel was indicted on 7 counts of first-degree murder 3 weeks later. The FBI had exhumed Tom's body, James Whitmore's body, Marcus Chen's body. All three showed lethal levels of digoxin in their tissue samples. Eleanor Whitmore's house fire wasn't accidental. Accelerant had been used. Richard Chen's stroke was induced by blood thinners that had no medical justification. Rachel's journal provided the roadmap. Her storage unit provided the evidence. Her courtroom confession sealed it. The trial was set for October. Her lawyer was already talking about insanity pleas. I didn't care. She was in jail. That was enough. David moved out of my house after 2 weeks. He said he needed space, his own place, somewhere that didn't remind him of everything he'd lost. I can't look at that couch without seeing her sitting there, he told me. Can't walk into the kitchen without remembering her cooking dinner, smiling at me, lying to my face. I understand. Do you? His voice cracked. She killed Dad, Mom, and I never knew. I mourned him with her, held her while she cried fake tears. She was probably laughing inside. She's a psychopath, David. It wasn't your fault. I married her. I brought her into our family. I let her near you, near Lily. He looked at me with hollow eyes. That's on me. He found an apartment downtown. Small, impersonal. Margaret brought Lily to visit him twice a week under court supervision. The custody hearing was still pending. Lily was in therapy 3 times a week. Dr. Sandra Park specialized in childhood trauma. She said Lily was doing as well as could be expected for a 7-year-old who'd been turned into an unwitting accomplice to attempted murder. She has nightmares, Margaret told me over coffee in my kitchen. She wakes up crying, asking if Grandma Gemma is dead. If the pills she gave you killed you. Can I see her? Margaret hesitated. Dr. Park thinks it might help, but David hasn't decided yet. He blames me. He blames himself, and he doesn't know how to face you. Margaret stirred her coffee slowly. He thinks every time you look at him, you see Tom's death. See how he failed to protect you. That's not true, isn't it? I didn't answer. The truth was complicated. When I looked at David now, I saw a broken man. A stranger wearing my son's face. The boy who'd trusted everyone was gone. The man who'd believed in love was dead. Rachel had killed that too. Frank came by every Tuesday. We still played cards, but the conversation had changed. You should sell the house, he said one evening. Too many bad memories. Or stay and make new ones. Alone? I've been alone before. He looked at me across the kitchen table. Tom wouldn't want this for you. Isolated. Cut off from your family. Tom's dead because of the family I welcomed in. I played my card. I'm not isolated, Frank. I'm protected. June came, then July. David's visits were brief and scheduled. Every other Sunday at 2 p.m., he'd sit in my living room for exactly 1 hour. We'd talk about weather, about his work, about nothing that mattered. Lily came with Margaret sometimes. She'd hug me carefully, like I was made of glass. Then she'd play in the backyard while Margaret and I watched from the window. She asked if Mommy is coming home, Margaret said during one visit. What did you tell her? That Mommy made bad choices and has to stay away. That sometimes people we love hurt us, and we have to protect ourselves. That's honest. Honestly is all we have left. Rachel's trial started in October. I didn't attend. Neither did David. Margaret sat in the courtroom every day, her face carefully blank as prosecutors detailed her daughter's crimes. The jury took 4 hours to convict on all counts. Life in prison without parole. 7 consecutive sentences. Margaret called me that evening. It's over. Is it? The legal part is. The rest. She trailed off. How do you move on from this? You just do, day by day. Is that what you're doing? I looked around my kitchen, at Tom's chair, at the photo on the wall of David's college graduation, at the drawing Lily had made me 2 years ago, still stuck to my refrigerator with a magnet. I'm surviving, I said. That's all anyone can do. November brought the final custody hearing. Margaret was awarded full legal guardianship of Lily. David got supervised visitation every weekend. He'd have to complete 6 months of therapy before the supervision would be lifted. The judge asked if I wanted visitation rights. No, Your Honor, I said. I think Lily needs stability right now, not more complications. David looked at me from across the courtroom. Something flickered in his eyes. Relief, maybe. Or gratitude that I wasn't pushing myself into his fractured life. That was the last time I saw him. Christmas came and went. David sent a card with a gift certificate to the bookstore. No personal message. Just his signature. I didn't send anything back. Margaret brought Lily by on New Year's Eve. The girl was taller now, 8 years old. Her nightmares had decreased to twice a week. "How are you, sweetheart?" I asked. "Okay." She looked at her shoes. "Grandma Margaret says Mommy is never coming back." "That's right. Because she hurt people." "Yes." "Did she hurt you?" I knelt down to her level. She tried to, but I didn't let her. And now she can't hurt anyone ever again. Lily looked up at me with Tom's green eyes. "Daddy says he's sorry." "For what?" "For everything. He told Grandma Margaret that he can't face you, that he's too ashamed." She wiped her nose. "What's ashamed mean?" "It means he feels bad about something he thinks he did wrong." "But he didn't know Mommy was bad. So it's not his fault, right?" Out of the mouths of children. "Right," I said softly. But David didn't see it that way. And I wasn't going to force him. Margaret and Lily left at 8 o'clock. I stood in my doorway, watching their car disappear down the street. Then I went inside, locked the door, poured myself a glass of wine. The house was quiet. It had been quiet for months, but now it felt different. Not empty, just mine. I'd spent 43 years in these walls, raised a son, loved a husband, survived a monster. I'd lost my husband to murder, lost my son to guilt and shame, lost my granddaughter to protective custody, but I was alive. Rachel had taken almost everything from me, but she hadn't taken my life, and she never would. I raised my glass to Tom's photo on the mantel. "I'm still here," I said out loud. That's the win. The house didn't answer, but I didn't need it to. I'd learned something in these months of silence. Sometimes survival is its own victory. Sometimes living well isn't the best revenge. Just living is. David would heal or he wouldn't. Lily would remember me or she wouldn't. Margaret would keep bringing her by or she wouldn't. None of it mattered as much as I'd thought it would. I was Gemma Teller, 68 years old, widow, survivor, alone by choice and circumstance, and I was free. The pills Rachel gave me sat in an evidence locker somewhere. The house she tried to steal was still mine. The money she'd taken had been returned with interest. She'd wanted to erase me, make me disappear, turn me into a convenient death that would fund her next scheme. Instead, she was the one who'd been erased, locked in a cage, forgotten by the family she'd destroyed. I finished my wine, turned off the lights, went to bed. Tomorrow I'd wake up, make coffee, read the paper, live another day. That was enough. That would always be enough. I got discharged after surgery. My DIL smiled in the lobby, clutching my pill bottle. "Let's go home. I'll manage your meds." I was about to get in the car, but the hallway cleaner, whom I always greeted, pulled me into a blind spot. She squeezed my hand and whispered shakily, "Ma'am, please, don't take any of these pills today. Throw them away, but don't swallow. Come back here tomorrow morning alone, and I'll tell you everything." Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. That warning would save my life. The fluorescent lights in St. Mary's Hospital lobby made Vanessa's smile too bright. She held the amber prescription bottle like a trophy, fingers wrapped tight around the white cap. "All set, Dorothy. Let's get you home and comfortable." Her voice had that practiced sweetness she used with Michael's colleagues at dinner parties. I leaned on the walker they'd given me post-op, my abdomen still burning where they'd removed my gallbladder 3 days ago. Rosa Mendoza had cleaned these hallways for 11 years. I knew because I'd asked her once, 2 years back when Harold was still alive and we'd come for his heart tests. She always wore the same navy blue scrubs, hair pulled into a tight bun, and I always said good morning. Most people looked through her like she was part of the tile. When her cleaning cart suddenly blocked the hallway to the parking garage, Vanessa sighed. "Excuse me, we need to get through." Rosa didn't move. Her dark eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my chest tighten. "Mrs. Harper, one moment, please. I need to check something." Before Vanessa could protest, Rosa gripped my elbow and guided me 3 steps to the left, into the alcove where they stored the wheelchair charging station. Her hands were shaking. "Ma'am." Her whisper came fast, urgent. "Please, Don't take any of these pills today. Throw them away, but don't swallow them. Come back here tomorrow morning alone, and I'll tell you everything. My heart slammed against my ribs. What are you— Dorothy! Vanessa appeared at the alcove entrance, her smile gone flat. What's going on? Rosa stepped back, grabbing a spray bottle from her cart. Sorry, ma'am. Just warning about wet floor. She gestured vaguely at perfectly dry linoleum. Vanessa's blue eyes narrowed. She was 38, 15 years younger than Michael, with the kind of sharp cheekbones that belonged in makeup commercials. Right now, those cheekbones looked like they could cut glass. We need to go. Dorothy's in pain. I was in pain. The incisions across my abdomen throbbed with every breath. But Rosa's hands had been shaking so hard I'd felt her pulse through her fingertips. I looked at the prescription bottle in Vanessa's perfectly manicured hand. Oxycodone. Patterson had prescribed it for the first week of recovery. Of course, I said. Thank you, Rosa. She nodded once, eyes still locked on mine. Be careful, Mrs. Harper. The parking garage smelled like car exhaust and concrete. Vanessa walked 3 steps ahead, her designer purse swinging from her shoulder. She'd worn heels to pick me up from the hospital. Red heels with pointed toes, the kind I'd stopped wearing at 40 when my feet started to hurt. Ridiculous, Vanessa muttered, clicking her key fob. The silver Lexus beeped twice. That woman practically assaulted you. She was just being helpful. Helpful? Vanessa opened the passenger door with more force than necessary. She grabbed you like some kind of lunatic. I lowered myself into the leather seat, every muscle in my core screaming. The surgery had been routine, Dr. Patterson said. Laparoscopic gallbladder removal, 3 tiny incisions, home in 3 days. But nothing about the past 72 hours had felt routine. The nurse who'd checked my vitals this morning had frowned at my chart twice, then called Dr. Patterson. When he arrived, he'd asked if I'd been taking any medications not listed in my file. I said no. He'd ordered extra blood work. No one told me the results. Vanessa slid into the driver's seat and set the pill bottle in the cup holder between us. The white label faced me. Oxycodone 10 mg. Take 1 tablet every 6 hours as needed for pain. The safety cap gleamed under the garage lights. You must be dying for some relief, Vanessa said, starting the engine. We'll get you home and I'll bring you a pill with some water. You haven't had anything since 6 this morning, right? 9 hours ago. The pain had started creeping back around 11. By 2, it felt like someone was twisting a knife through my stomach. I'd asked the discharge nurse for something, but she said I needed to wait for my prescription. Hospital policy. Vanessa pulled onto Jefferson Avenue, heading east toward the house on Parkwood Drive that Harold and I had bought in 1987. The house where Michael had learned to ride his bike. The house I'd signed over to him and Vanessa last year when they said they wanted to renovate the kitchen and needed to streamline ownership for the contractor. My name was still on the insurance paperwork, but the deed belonged to them now. You're being so brave, Vanessa said, glancing over. This whole surgery thing. Most women your age would be a mess. I was 65. Not ancient, despite how Vanessa sometimes made it sound. I'd taught 2nd grade for 33 years before retiring. I balanced my checkbook, managed my own medications, drove myself to appointments, or I had, before the surgery, before Michael started making worried noises about me overdoing it, and Vanessa started offering to help coordinate my schedule. Thank you, I said. The pill bottle rattled in the cup holder every time we hit a pothole. Toledo's streets were terrible in March, all frost heaves and cracked asphalt. I watched the orange plastic container rock back and forth. 30 pills, 1 every 6 hours. That meant 5 days of coverage if I took them regularly. Patterson had said I probably wouldn't need all of them, that most people tapered off pain meds by day 4 or 5. Rosa's voice echoed in my head. Don't take any of these pills today. What did a hospital cleaner know about my prescription? Maybe she'd overheard something. Nurses gossiped in hallways, in break rooms, in supply closets where they thought patients couldn't hear. I'd learned that during Harold's final hospitalization. They'd discussed his prognosis outside his door like he was already gone. Voices low, but not low enough. Do you need me to stop anywhere? Vanessa asked. Pharmacy's closed, but I could grab you some ginger ale or crackers. Are you sure? You haven't eaten since breakfast. The hospital breakfast had been runny scrambled eggs and toast. I'd managed 3 bites before my stomach rebelled. Anesthesia took days to fully clear your system. Patterson had warned me about nausea, constipation, fatigue. He hadn't warned me about cleaning ladies pulling me into alcoves with shaking hands. We turned onto Parkwood Drive. The elm trees were still bare, skeletal branches reaching toward gray sky. Chen's house on the corner had new shutters, painted bright blue. The Kowalski place 2 doors down had a for sale sign. I'd lived on this street for 38 years and watched families come and go, watched children grow up and move away, watched houses change hands and colors and landscape designs. Harold died in our bedroom 2 years ago. Heart attack at 67, sudden and massive. The EMTs tried for 20 minutes. I'd held his hand while they worked, and his skin had gone cold under my fingers. Michael arrived just as they called it. He'd been 39 then, my only child, my baby boy, who'd grown into a man with his father's eyes and his father's laugh. Vanessa came to the funeral in a black dress that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She'd hugged me and whispered, "We'll take care of everything, Dorothy. Don't you worry about a thing." And she had. She'd organized the reception, fielded the casserole brigade, sent thank you notes. She'd also started suggesting I might want to simplify my living situation. Maybe move into a nice senior community. Lots of activities, she'd said. Built-in social life. The Lexus pulled into the driveway. Michael's truck was already there. The blue Ford F-150 he'd bought last year despite having a decent sedan. "For hauling renovation supplies," he'd said. The truck bed was empty now, paint-free and pristine. "Home sweet home," Vanessa said. She grabbed the pill bottle and her purse, then came around to help me out. Her grip on my arm was firm, professional, like she'd practiced patient transport. "Watch your step." The front walk needed shoveling. Patches of dirty snow clung to the edges. I navigated carefully, leaning heavy on the walker. The pills rattled in Vanessa's hand. 3 steps up to the porch. My legs felt like water. Michael opened the door before we reached it. "Mom, how are you feeling?" He was 42 now, softer around the middle than he'd been at 30, hair starting to thin at the crown. He wore his weekend outfit, faded jeans and a Toledo Mud Hens t-shirt. His face creased with concern that looked genuine. "Let's get you to bed." He took my other arm, and together he and Vanessa guided me inside. The living room looked the same as it had 3 days ago. Cream carpet, beige sofa, family photos on the mantel. Harold smiled at me from a frame, frozen at 65, healthy and whole. Next to him, Michael's high school graduation photo. Further down, Michael and Vanessa's wedding picture from 6 years ago. No photos of me and Harold on our wedding day. Those albums lived in a box in the basement now. "Makes the mantel look too crowded," Vanessa had said last spring. They walked me down the hallway to the guest bedroom. My bedroom, technically, since last year when Michael suggested I'd be more comfortable on the ground floor, and moved my things down from the master suite. Vanessa needed Harold's office space for her business, something to do with online consulting that required a standing desk and 3 monitors. The guest room had my old furniture. The oak dresser Harold built in 1985, the nightstand with the wobbly leg, my quilt from the church craft sale. The window faced the backyard where Harold's tomato garden used to be. Vanessa had turned it into a Zen meditation space last summer, all river rocks and bamboo. There we go. Michael helped me sit on the bed. Nice and easy. Vanessa appeared with a glass of water and the pill bottle. She shook one white tablet into her palm. "Take this, Dorothy. You'll feel better in 20 minutes. I looked at the pill, round, white, stamped with a number I couldn't read from this distance. It looked like every oxycodone tablet I'd seen during Harold's cancer scare 7 years ago, before they figured out the mass was benign. "Don't take any of these pills today. Maybe I should wait," I said. "See how I feel after I rest." Vanessa's smile tightened. "Dorothy, you've been in pain since this morning. Patterson prescribed these for a reason." "Your mother knows her own body," Michael said, but his voice carried no weight. He'd learned years ago not to contradict Vanessa directly. Of course she does. Vanessa's tone went sugary. But pain management is crucial for healing. If you let it get too bad, it's harder to control. That's what the discharge nurse told us, remember? The discharge nurse had said that. She'd also said to take the medication with food, to drink plenty of water, to call if I experienced dizziness or confusion. Standard post-op instructions. I'll take it in a bit, I said. I want to change into my nightgown first. Vanessa set the water glass on the nightstand. The pill remained in her palm. I'll leave it right here. She placed it next to the glass, then set the bottle beside it. Call if you need anything. Michael and I will be just in the kitchen. They left, pulling the door almost closed behind them. Not latched, just ajar enough that I could hear their footsteps fade down the hallway. I sat on the bed, staring at the white tablet. My abdomen throbbed. Every breath pulled at the incisions. I needed pain relief. The pill was right there. Prescription authorized, doctor ordered. 1 tablet every 6 hours as needed. Rosa's hands had been shaking so hard. I picked up the pill and held it to the light. White, round, stamped with the number 10. It looked completely normal. I brought it to my nose. No smell or nothing I could detect over the general medicinal scent of the prescription bottle. From the kitchen, Vanessa's voice drifted back. She's being difficult. She's in pain, Van. Cut her some slack. I'm trying to help her and she's fighting me every step. I wrapped the pill in a tissue and tucked it into the nightstand drawer. Then I pulled off my shoes and lay back against the pillows. The ceiling had a water stain in the corner that Harold had promised to fix before he died. I'd gotten used to looking at it. Tomorrow morning, I'd go back to the hospital. Alone. I'd find Rosa and ask her what she knew. Tonight, I'd pretend to sleep and watch the door. I faked sleep until midnight. The house settled into its familiar night sounds. Furnace clicking on, refrigerator humming, the oak tree branch scratching the dining room window. Vanessa checked on me twice, opening the door just enough to peer inside. Each time I kept my breathing slow and even, eyes closed, body still. Each time she stood there for 30 seconds before pulling the door shut again. The pill sat in the nightstand drawer, wrapped in tissue. At 12:15, I heard them go upstairs. Footsteps overhead, muffled voices, water running. Their bedroom was directly above mine, in what used to be the master suite. My master suite, before I'd let them convince me the stairs were getting too difficult. I waited another hour. The house went silent except for the wind pushing against the windows. March in Toledo meant unpredictable weather, cold snaps and false springs. Tonight felt like winter refusing to let go. At 1:30, I sat up. Pain lanced through my abdomen, sharper than before. I'd refused the evening dose too, told Vanessa I wanted to sleep naturally. She'd frowned, but hadn't pushed. The pill bottle sat on my nightstand, orange plastic glowing faintly in the dark. I opened the drawer and pulled out the tissue-wrapped tablet from this afternoon. Tomorrow I'd find Rosa. Tonight I needed to understand what I was refusing to take. The nightstand lamp cast yellow light across the bed. I unwrapped the pill and placed it next to 3 others I'd palmed throughout the evening. Vanessa had brought them with meals I pretended to take. Chicken soup at 6, toast at 8, chamomile tea at 10. Each time she'd stood there watching until I raised the glass to my lips, pill supposedly swallowed. 4 white tablets, identical, round, stamped with 10, no unusual markings. I lined them up on the tissue and stared. Harold had taken pain medication after his surgery. I'd managed his pills for 3 weeks, checking dosages, monitoring side effects. These looked exactly like those had. But Harold's had helped him heal. These pills, according to a cleaning lady I barely knew, would do something else entirely. I needed information. My phone sat on the dresser, but Vanessa had set up the wireless bill last year, switching me to her family plan. Easier to manage, she'd said. One less thing for you to worry about. I didn't know if she could see my browsing history, but I wasn't willing to risk it. The house phone was in the kitchen. Cordless handset, caller ID that kept a log. Too risky. I eased myself off the bed. The walker sat beside the nightstand, cold metal under my palms. My body screamed protest with every movement, but I'd taught second grade for 33 years. I knew how to push through discomfort when necessary. The hallway was dark. I moved slowly, wheels squeaking faintly on hardwood. At the end of the hall, light seeped from under the kitchen door. Had I left something on? I couldn't remember. I pushed the door open an inch. Empty. The light came from the microwave clock. 1:47 a.m. Green numbers too bright for the middle of the night. The office was 2 doors down. Vanessa's office now, converted from Harold's study. She worked in there during the day, door closed, taking video calls that required silence. At night, she locked it, said her client's information needed security. I tried the handle. Locked. Back in the kitchen, I opened drawers quietly. Junk drawer, utensil drawer, dish towel drawer. I found the spare keys in the 4th drawer down, tucked behind old takeout menus. 3 keys on a ring. Front door, back door, office. Harold had labeled them with masking tape 20 years ago. His neat print faded but readable. The office key turned smoothly. I slipped inside and closed the door behind me. Vanessa had painted the walls pale gray and installed white floating shelves. Harold's mahogany desk was gone, replaced with a modern standing desk unit that looked like something from a tech startup. 3 monitors formed a semicircle, all dark. A white filing cabinet stood in the corner where Harold's leather armchair used to be. I didn't have much time. Vanessa was a light sleeper, Michael less so, but any noise could wake them. I needed to understand what I was looking for first. The filing cabinet had 4 drawers. I pulled the top one open. Manila folders neatly labeled Utilities, Insurance, Taxes 2023, Taxes 2024, everything color-coded and organized. Vanessa loved systems. The second drawer held medical files. I saw my name on a folder tab and pulled it out. Dorothy Harper. Medical ran across the top in Vanessa's precise handwriting. Inside, copies of my insurance cards, Medicare documentation, physician contact information. Nothing unusual. I flipped deeper. There, near the back, a paper-clipped stack. Life insurance policy. My hands started shaking. I'd had life insurance since 1982. A $50,000 policy through Harold's work that converted to individual coverage when he retired. After Harold died, I'd meant to review it, maybe cancel it. The premiums were manageable but unnecessary. I had no debt, no mortgage, no one depending on my income, but I'd never gotten around to it. The policy auto-paid from my checking account every month, $87 withdrawn on the 15th. I unclipped the papers. The top sheet was dated 3 months ago. December 18th, 2023. Beneficiary change form. Primary beneficiary. Michael Robert Harper. Changed from Harold James Harper, deceased. My signature at the bottom. Except I'd never signed this form. I'd never seen this form. I held it up to the desk lamp. The signature looked like mine, same flowing D, same way I crossed my T's, but I had no memory of signing it. December 18th was a Monday. I'd been at my book club, Shirley Montgomery's house, discussing The Nightingale. I remembered because Shirley served that awful Fig Newton cookies nobody ate. The next page showed the policy amount, $500,000. Not $50,000. $500,000. The room tilted. I sat down hard in Vanessa's ergonomic chair. $500,000. When had my policy increased? I checked my bank statements religiously every month, balanced down to the penny. The life insurance line item said $87, same as always. The next document was a payment schedule. Premium payments, $87 monthly, auto-pay from account ending in 4782. Additional rider premium, $340 monthly, auto-pay from account ending in 6291. Account 6291. I didn't have an account ending in 6291. I pulled out the file labeled Banking. Inside, statements for checking account 4782, mine, savings account 5119, also mine, and a joint account ending in 6291. Opened November 2023. Joint holders, Dorothy May Harper and Vanessa Christine Harper. November, 2 months before the beneficiary change form, 1 month before my gallbladder started acting up. I found the November statement for account 6291. Opening deposit, $10,000, transferred from account 4782, my account, followed by monthly withdrawals, $340 to Pinnacle Life Insurance Company. I'd never authorized a $10,000 transfer. I'd never opened a joint account with Vanessa. The December statement showed another $340 to Pinnacle Life. January, the same. February, the same. March hadn't closed yet, but I could extrapolate. 4 months of $340 payments for a life insurance rider I'd never requested, paid from an account I'd never opened, increasing my coverage to an amount that would make me worth more dead than alive. And I'd supposedly signed every document. I checked the file for copies of my signature on the account opening forms, the insurance applications, the beneficiary changes. All of them looked like mine. All of them showed dates when I'd been somewhere else, doing something I could prove if anyone bothered to check. My book club met the second Monday of every month. My bridge group met Thursdays. I volunteered at the library every other Saturday. I had alibis for every signature date, if only in the form of witnesses who'd seen me elsewhere. But who would believe me? A 65-year-old woman claiming her memory was clear when I'd been signing medical consent forms and prescription authorizations all week without reading them carefully, when I'd transferred my house deed without fully understanding the paperwork, when I'd let my daughter-in-law help with my finances because it was easier than arguing. I photographed everything with Vanessa's desk phone, a landline with a camera feature that barely worked. The images came out grainy and dim, but readable. I tucked the phone back in its cradle and returned the files to their drawers, making sure everything sat exactly as I'd found it. The pills. I needed to know what was in those pills. I searched the desk drawers. Pens, sticky notes, charger cables, breath mints. The bottom drawer had a lock. I tried the key ring. None of them fit. I'd need a paperclip or bobby pin, the kind of lock-picking I'd learned from a mystery novel but never actually attempted. Footsteps creaked overhead, someone getting up, probably using the bathroom. I froze, listening. Water ran, toilet flushed, footsteps back across the floor, bed springs squeaked. I had maybe 30 seconds before whoever it was decided to check on me. I eased out of the office, relocked the door, returned the keys to the kitchen drawer. The walker wheels seemed deafening on the hardwood. I made it back to the guest room just as I heard the upstairs hall door open. I got into bed fully clothed and pulled the covers up, closed my eyes, controlled my breathing. My door opened. Footsteps approached the bed. Someone leaned close. I smelled Vanessa's perfume, something floral and expensive. Dorothy? Soft, questioning, testing if I was awake. She stood there for a long time. Then she picked up something from the nightstand, the pill bottle probably, checking if I'd taken any. She set it down with a soft click. "Sleep well," she whispered. The door closed. Her footsteps faded. I waited until I heard the upstairs hall door close before I opened my eyes. The room was dark except for the green glow of my alarm clock. 2:23 a.m., $500,000, a forged signature, a joint account I never opened, pills I was warned not to take. Rosa hadn't been hysterical. She'd been trying to save my life. I needed to get to that hospital tomorrow. I needed answers before Vanessa realized I was suspicious, before she found a way to make sure I took those pills whether I wanted to or not. The morning couldn't come fast enough. At 6 a.m., I heard them wake up. Shower running, voices murmuring, the coffee maker gurgling in the kitchen. Vanessa always woke first, then Michael. She'd mentioned once that she liked having an hour to herself before dealing with other people. I'd found that odd at the time. What newlywed wanted to avoid their spouse? But she'd said it matter-of-factly, like preferring tea over coffee. I stayed in bed, played the recovering patient, weak and dependent. Vanessa knocked at 7. "Dorothy? You awake?" She came in carrying a tray, toast, scrambled eggs, orange juice, and the pill bottle. "Breakfast. You must be starving." She set the tray on my lap, then shook out a white tablet. "And your morning dose. You've been so good about managing your pain." "Thank you." I took the pill, palmed it while reaching for the orange juice. Raised the glass to my lips, mimed swallowing. I appreciate you taking care of me. That's what family does. Vanessa smiled. The smile didn't reach her eyes. Michael had to run some errands, but he'll be back this afternoon. I've got a few calls, but I'll check on you between meetings. Actually, I said, I need to go back to the hospital this morning. Her smile froze. What? Why? Follow-up appointment. Patterson wants to check the incisions. That's not until Friday. I have it in my calendar. I'd made that up. I watched her face carefully. They called yesterday, while I was sleeping, left a message about moving it up. Something about concern over the blood work. Vanessa's jaw tightened. What blood work? The extra tests Dr. Patterson ordered. The nurse said they found something. That part was true. The nurse had frowned at my chart. Patterson had ordered extra tests. No one had told me the results. They would have called me, Vanessa said. I'm your emergency contact. Maybe they called the house phone and you missed it. She stared at me. I stared back. The toast on my plate was getting cold. What time is the appointment? She asked finally. 9. I'll take a taxi. Don't be ridiculous. I'll drive you. Exactly what I didn't want. You have calls. I'll reschedule. Her tone left no room for argument. Finish your breakfast. We'll leave at 8:30. She walked out, closing the door with a sharp click. I'd miscalculated. Now I had to actually go to the hospital with Vanessa watching my every move. Rosa had said to come alone. How was I supposed to find her with my daughter-in-law standing guard? I pushed the eggs around my plate. The pills tucked in the nightstand drawer now numbered 5. 5 white tablets I'd avoided taking. 5 doses that would have done God knows what to my system. The office landline photos were grainy but readable. I needed to get them developed or transferred somewhere safe. I needed evidence that couldn't disappear if Vanessa decided to clean house. But first, I needed to survive the morning, get to the hospital, find Rosa, learn what she knew that had made her hands shake so hard, and I needed to do it all while pretending I was just a confused old woman who'd forgotten an appointment that didn't exist. At 8:20, Vanessa appeared in my doorway again. She'd changed into business casual, gray slacks and a cream blouse. Her makeup was perfect. Ready? She helped me into the wheelchair they'd sent home from the hospital. Easier than the walker for longer distances, they'd said. I hadn't argued. Now I was grateful. It gave Vanessa something to focus on besides my face. The drive to St. Mary's took 20 minutes. Vanessa kept glancing at me in the mirror. You seem anxious. I don't like hospitals. No one does. She pulled into the parking garage, same level as yesterday. But Dr. Patterson is excellent. If something's wrong with your blood work, he'll fix it. If something was wrong with my blood work, it was because someone had been putting something in my system that shouldn't be there. Pills, maybe. Or food. Or both. I'd eaten everything Vanessa served me for the past 3 months. Since the joint account was opened. Since the insurance policy was changed. Since my signature started appearing on documents I'd never signed. Vanessa pushed the wheelchair through the main entrance. The lobby looked different in daytime. Brighter, busier, full of people checking in for appointments or visiting patients. A volunteer at the information desk smiled at us. Which floor? Vanessa asked. 3, surgical follow-up. We took the elevator. Vanessa wheeled me down the hallway to the surgical department. A nurse at the desk looked up. Can I help you? Dorothy Harper to see Dr. Patterson, Vanessa said smoothly. 9 o'clock appointment. The nurse checked her computer, frowned. I don't have you down for today. Your next appointment is Friday at 2. Vanessa turned to me. Dorothy. I made my face confused. But they called. They said the blood work. Let me check. The nurse typed something. Patterson did order additional labs on Tuesday. Results came back Wednesday evening. She read from the screen. All values within normal range. No follow-up needed until Friday. The relief that washed over me was genuine. Normal blood work meant whatever Vanessa had planned, she hadn't gotten far enough yet to show up in my labs. Or the pills I'd avoided had saved me from whatever would have made them abnormal. Oh, I said. I must have misunderstood the message. Vanessa's lips pressed into a thin line. Let's go home, Dorothy. You need rest. Actually, I said, I need to use the restroom. There's one by the elevator. I'd rather use the one down here. It's bigger, easier with the wheelchair. Vanessa looked like she wanted to argue, but the nurse was watching, and making a scene about bathroom access would look strange. Fine, I'll wait here. I can manage. You don't need to come with me. Please, I'm 65, not 90. I can use the bathroom alone. The nurse looked uncomfortable now. Vanessa saw it and backed down. Of course. Take your time. I wheeled myself down the hall, around the corner, past the bathrooms. The cleaning cart was 3 doors down, parked outside an empty patient room. Rosa stood next to it, organizing supplies. When she saw me, her eyes widened. We need to talk. My daughter-in-law is waiting around the corner. Rosa glanced both ways, then pushed me into the empty room and closed the door. You didn't take the pills, and I found out why. Someone forged my signature on a life insurance policy, changed it to $500,000. Michael is the beneficiary. Rosa's face went gray. I heard her on the phone, Tuesday morning, before you were discharged. She was in the hallway outside your room, talking to someone. She said, the pills will start working in a few days. Make it look like complications from surgery. By next week, she'll be too confused to complain, and 2 weeks after that, she'll be gone. The room spun. You're sure? I heard her. I cleaned that hallway every morning at 6. She always made calls then, before visiting hours. She didn't know I was there. Did you tell anyone? Rosa looked at the floor. I'm undocumented, Mrs. Harper. I report something like this. They check my papers. I get deported. I got 3 kids, but I couldn't let her kill you. You always said good morning. You treated me like a person. My throat went tight. Thank you. You need to get away from her. Today. I need proof first. Something more than your word and my suspicion. The pills. Take them to a lab. Have them tested. That takes time. And money. And I need to do it without Vanessa knowing. Rosa pulled something from her pocket. A business card, worn and creased. My cousin. He runs a pharmacy in Detroit. He can test pills. No questions. Cash only. Tell him Rosa sent you. I took the card. Martinez Pharmacy. An address in Southwest Detroit. Thank you. Go now. Don't go back to that house. I have to. Everything I own is there. My documents, my photos, my husband's things. If I run now, she'll know I'm on to her. She'll destroy evidence. Not if I'm careful. I met Rosa's eyes. I need 3 days. That's all. 3 days to gather proof and get out safely. 3 days. Can you keep this quiet for 3 days? Rosa hesitated, then nodded. 3 days. But after that, I'm calling the police. Papers or no papers. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Vanessa's voice. Dorothy? Where are you? Rosa opened the door and walked out pushing her cart, not looking back. I wheeled myself to the bathroom, used it quickly, then came back out. Vanessa stood in the hallway, arms crossed. There you are. I was getting worried. Sorry. Line for the bathroom. She studied my face like she was reading a book with missing pages. Let's go home. We drove back in silence. I watched the city pass by the window and planned. 3 days. 72 hours to photograph documents, transfer evidence, contact lawyers, and get out of that house before Vanessa realized her plan was failing. I touched the business card in my pocket. Martinez Pharmacy. Tonight, if I could manage it, I'd take the pills, get them tested, have proof that Vanessa was trying to poison me. Then I'd burn her whole world down. The trip to Detroit happened Thursday night. I told Vanessa I was sleeping. She checked on me at 9, saw me in bed with the lights off, and went back upstairs. I waited an hour, then called a cab from the kitchen phone after deleting the call from the log. Martinez Pharmacy sat between a laundromat and a taqueria on Verner Highway. The cab dropped me at 10:40 p.m. The driver looked skeptical, but took my cash without comment. I'd pulled $200 from the kitchen emergency fund, money Harold had kept in a coffee can for decades. The pharmacy was still lit, despite the late hour. A man in his 50s stood behind the counter, gray hair, reading glasses. He looked up when I walked in. Rosa sent me. I put the pill bottle on the counter. She said you could test these. His expression shifted. Rosa Mendoza? He picked up the bottle, examined it. These are prescribed to you? Supposedly. I need to know what's actually in them. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Come to the back. The testing lab was cramped, shelves stacked with supplies and equipment. He crushed one tablet, added reagents, watched colors change. 20 minutes later, he had an answer. Oxycodone, like the label says, but there's something else. He showed me a printout I didn't understand. Oleander extract. Small amounts but cumulative. 4 or 5 of these spread across a week and you'd start showing cardiac symptoms. 10 to 12 and you'd have a heart attack that looked natural, especially in someone with recent surgery. My hands went numb. You're sure? Positive. Someone adulterated these pills after they were prescribed. The oleander was added later. You can tell from the distribution pattern. This is attempted murder, ma'am. Can you write that down? Something official? He gave me a sealed envelope with his findings, letterhead and signature. That'll be $200. I paid him and took a cab back to Toledo. The driver was different, younger, didn't ask questions. I arrived home at 1:15 a.m., slipped in through the back door, and was in bed by 1:30. Friday morning, Vanessa brought breakfast at 7. I took the pill she offered, palmed it, made her watch me eat scrambled eggs that tasted like cardboard. She seemed satisfied. Michael came home that afternoon. I heard his truck in the driveway, heard him and Vanessa talking in low voices in the kitchen. I stayed in my room, door cracked, listening. Needs to start taking them regularly, Vanessa said. She's fighting me. Maybe she doesn't need them. Mom's tough. She probably doesn't have much pain anymore. The doctor said 2 weeks of pain management. It's only been 4 days. So let her decide when she needs them. Michael. Vanessa's voice hardened. Your mother isn't thinking clearly. The surgery, the medication she has taken, the stress, she needs structure right now. We have to make sure she follows her treatment plan. Silence. Then Michael. Yeah, okay. You're probably right. That was when I knew for certain that Michael wasn't just willfully blind. He was actively involved. I'd wanted to believe he didn't know, that Vanessa was acting alone, that my son was merely weak and conflict avoidant. But you're probably right didn't sound like ignorance. It sounded like agreement with a plan he already understood. I needed more proof. I waited until Friday night after they'd gone to bed. This time I went straight to the office, keys in hand. I photographed more documents with my digital camera. Actual photos this time, not grainy phone images. I uploaded them to a flash drive I'd found in Harold's old desk supplies. That's when I found the emails. Vanessa's computer was password protected, but she'd written it on a sticky note inside her desk drawer. Michael and V 2018, the year they got married. I logged in and opened her email. The folder labeled Mill was easy to find. Mother-in-law. The emails went back 6 months, November 2023, right after they'd convinced me to sign the house over. We need to move faster. She's asking questions about the deed transfer. I think she's getting suspicious. We should start phase 2 before she changes her mind. The insurance. I told you about this. We change the policy amount, add the rider, start paying from the joint account. By the time she notices, if she notices, it's too late to change it back without raising flags. Van, I don't know. This feels wrong. What feels wrong is working 2 jobs while your mother sits on $300,000 in assets doing nothing. What feels wrong is being broke at 42 because your father didn't plan ahead. She's 65. She's lived her life. We deserve a chance to live ours. Okay, but just the insurance. Nothing else. The emails continued. December. Getting the signatures was easier than I thought. You just have to catch her while she's distracted. January. The gallbladder thing is perfect timing. Surgery means recovery means dependence. February. I found a solution for phase 3. A pharmacist in Detroit who's willing to modify prescriptions for the right price. Phase 3. The poisoned pills. Valentine's Day. And I'm thinking about your mother's death. How romantic is that? But seriously, the pharmacist says oleander extract is undetectable if administered correctly. Mimics heart failure. Given her recent surgery and her age, no one will question it. Jesus Christ, Van. Don't act shocked. You knew this was always the end goal. The insurance doesn't pay out if she's alive. I'm doing the hard part. All you have to do is not interfere. 2 weeks after she starts the pills, 3 at most. The pharmacist says her heart will just stop one night. Peaceful, quick, better than she deserves for making us wait this long. I sat in Vanessa's ergonomic chair and felt my world crack open. Michael knew. My son, the boy I'd carried for 9 months and raised for 42 years, knew his wife was planning to kill me and had decided it was acceptable because they were broke and I was inconvenient. My hands shook so hard I could barely control the mouse. I forwarded the emails to my own account, an old Yahoo address Vanessa didn't know about. Then I copied them to the flash drive. Then I took photos of the screen with my camera, just to be certain. Evidence. I had evidence now. Forged insurance documents, poisoned pills with lab results, emails discussing murder like it was a renovation project. I could go to the police, right now, walk out of this house, call 911, show them everything, but something held me back. If I went to the police now, Michael would be arrested, my son would go to prison, and some part of me, the mother part that had bandaged his scraped knees and attended his baseball games and celebrated every small victory, couldn't quite accept that reality. I sat in that office until 3 a.m., reading every email in the MIL folder. February became March. The emails discussed timing, dosage, disposal of evidence. They discussed what to do with my body, what to tell the neighbors, how to handle the funeral without looking too eager. The last email was from yesterday. Your mother is hiding the pills. I've been watching. She palms them when I'm not looking. We need to switch tactics. I'm going to crush them into her food. She can't avoid eating. What if she notices? She won't. And if she does, so what? What's she going to do? She signed over the house. Her accounts are joint with mine. She has no car, no money we can't track, no support system we haven't isolated her from. She's trapped. Even if she tries to run, where would she go? I closed the computer. My heart hammered against my ribs. Vanessa was right. I'd let them take everything. The house, the accounts, my independence. I'd signed it all away because they'd convinced me it was easier, safer, better. But I wasn't trapped. Not yet. I still had the flash drive. I still had the photos. I still had Rosa's testimony and the pharmacist's report. I had evidence that could put both of them in prison for 20 years. The question was whether I had the strength to use it. I thought about Michael at 8 years old, crying because his hamster died. I'd held him while he sobbed, told him it was okay to be sad, that loving something meant accepting it could be lost. I thought about Michael at 16, failing algebra because he'd spent too much time playing video games. Harold and I had grounded him, taken away his console, made him study 2 hours every night. He'd been angry for weeks, but he'd passed the class, graduated, gone to college. I thought about Michael at 25, proposing to a girl named Sarah who seemed sweet and genuine. They'd broken up 3 months later when Sarah realized Michael still expected his mother to do his laundry. He'd been devastated. I'd told him heartbreak was part of growing up, but I'd never taught him that murder was unacceptable. Maybe because I'd never imagined I'd need to. I put the flash drive in my bra, the same place I'd hidden my emergency credit card for years. Then I went back to bed and lay awake until sunrise, listening to the house settle and shift. At 8 a.m., Vanessa knocked. Breakfast, Dorothy. She entered carrying the tray. Scrambled eggs again, toast, orange juice. She set it on my lap and reached for the pill bottle. Actually, I said, I'm feeling much better. I think I can go without the pain medication today. Her smile didn't waver. Patterson said 2 weeks. It's only been 5 days. I know my body. I don't need them. The infection risk. There is no infection risk from pain medication. Vanessa's jaw tightened. Dorothy, you're not a doctor. We stared at each other. I saw the calculation in her eyes, weighing options, planning the next move. She'd already decided to crush the pills into my food. This conversation was theater. Fine, Vanessa said. But if you're in pain tonight, don't complain to me. She left, taking the pill bottle with her. I ate the eggs slowly, tasting for bitterness, texture changes, anything that might indicate tampering. They seemed normal. Maybe she hadn't started yet. Maybe I had a few more hours. I needed to leave today. Well, I still could, but I had no car. No accessible money beyond the $40 left from Harold's coffee can. No way to contact anyone without Vanessa monitoring the phones. Chen, the neighbor 2 houses down with the bright blue shutters. She'd brought me a casserole last week, asked how I was feeling. She was 73, widowed like me, lived alone with 3 cats. We'd talked occasionally over the years, mostly garden chat and weather complaints, but she had a car. And a phone Vanessa didn't control. I waited until I heard Vanessa on a video call in the office, her professional voice explaining something about quarterly projections. Then I got out of bed, put on my coat, and walked out the front door. No walker, no wheelchair. Just me, moving slowly, leaning on the porch railing for support, step by careful step down to the sidewalk. The cold hit me like a slap. March in Toledo, 38 degrees and windy. I hadn't been outside since Tuesday. My legs shook. Chen's house was 2 doors down, maybe 80 yards. It felt like miles. I made it to her walkway before I had to stop and rest. My incisions burned. My breath came in short gasps. But I was out. I'd left. Chen answered on the second knock. "Dorothy? Oh my God, what are you doing out here? You should be in bed." "I need your help," I said. "Can I come in?" She ushered me inside, sat me on her floral couch, brought me water. "What's wrong?" "I need to use your phone. Please. It's an emergency." "Of course. Do you need an ambulance?" "I need the police." Chen's face went pale. "Dorothy, my daughter-in-law is trying to kill me. I have proof, but I need to get it to the police before she realizes I'm gone." For a moment, I thought she'd argue. Call Vanessa. Tell me I was confused. Instead, she handed me her cordless phone. Tell me what to do. I dialed 911. When the operator answered, I said 3 words. "I need help." Then I told her everything. The police arrived in 12 minutes. 2 patrol cars, 4 officers, lights flashing but no sirens. Chen held my hand while I waited, her cats weaving between our ankles. Detective Sarah Morrison took my statement. She was 40, sharp-eyed, patient. She listened while I explained about the pills, the forged signatures, the emails. I showed her the flash drive, the pharmacy report, the photos on my camera. She photographed my photo evidence, bagged the pills I'd saved, took detailed notes. "This is substantial," she said. "We'll need to verify everything, but if what you're saying is accurate, we're looking at attempted murder, fraud, forgery, multiple felonies. We execute a search warrant, seize computers, financial documents, anything that supports your claims. We'll interview both your son and daughter-in-law separately, and we'll need you somewhere safe while we work." "I don't have anywhere to go." Chen squeezed my hand. "You can stay here as long as you need." Detective Morrison shook her head. "With respect, ma'am, if these people are as dangerous as Mrs. Harper claims, having her 2 doors down isn't safe. We have victim services, protective arrangements." "I'm not hiding," I said. "If you're arresting them, I want to be there. I want to see their faces when they realize they didn't win." Morrison studied me. "That's not protocol." "I don't care about protocol. I care about seeing justice served to my son and the woman he chose over me." Something in my voice must have convinced her. She nodded slowly. "I'll see what I can do." They arrested Vanessa first. I watched from Mrs. Chen's window as officers knocked on my front door. My former front door. Vanessa answered, confident and poised. Her face shifted when they showed her the warrant. Confusion, then fear, then calculation. She tried to close the door. They stopped her. She fought. Not physically, but verbally, demanding lawyers and explanations and making threats about lawsuits. They cuffed her anyway, read her rights, walked her to the patrol car. She saw me watching from Mrs. Chen's window. Our eyes met across 80 yards. Hers went cold. She knew. Michael came home 20 minutes later. I'd called Detective Morrison, told her he'd be back from his errands by 4. She'd assigned 2 officers to wait. They intercepted him in the driveway. He didn't fight. He looked confused, kept saying there must be some mistake. When they mentioned his mother, his eyes found Mrs. Chen's window like he'd known I'd be watching. He looked heartbroken, betrayed. like I was the one who'd done something wrong by refusing to die quietly. I turned away from the window. Detective Morrison took me to the station for additional questioning. We sat in a gray room with a table and 2 chairs, and I told her everything again, slower this time, with more details. She recorded it all. 3 hours of testimony about forged signatures and poisoned pills and emails discussing murder like meal planning. "Your son is claiming ignorance," Morrison said around hour 2. "Says his wife handled all your finances and medical care. Says he had no idea about the insurance changes or the pills. He's lying. I have emails where he acknowledges phase 3, where he asks, 'How long?' and she answers 2 weeks. We'll verify. But I need to prepare you. He may try to claim coercion, that his wife manipulated him, that he was afraid of her, that he only went along out of fear. He's 42 years old, not a child. Legally, coercion is a defense. If he can prove she controlled him, she didn't control him. She just gave him an excuse to want me dead without admitting it to himself." Morrison didn't argue. She'd probably seen worse. People were capable of extraordinary cruelty, especially when money was involved. $500,000 was enough to make most people reconsider their morals. They released me at 9 p.m. with instructions to stay available for follow-up questioning. Chen drove me back to her house. My former house, was dark and empty, yellow crime scene tape across the door. I stayed with Mrs. Chen for a week, slept on her guest bed, ate her cooking, played with her cats. She didn't ask many questions, just kept me fed and warm and distracted. The investigation moved fast. Detective Morrison called with updates every other day. They'd verified the forged signatures. Handwriting experts confirmed I hadn't signed any of the documents. They'd tested the pills, oleander extract, exactly as the Detroit pharmacy had reported. They'd recovered the emails. Vanessa had tried to delete them, but IT forensics pulled them from the server. The charges came down on day 8. Attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, identity theft, forgery. Vanessa faced all of them. Michael faced conspiracy and fraud. The prosecutor said Vanessa was looking at 25 years minimum. Michael, as an accomplice, could get 15 if convicted. "They're offering him a deal," Morrison told me on day 10. "Testify against his wife. Full cooperation. They'll reduce it to conspiracy and fraud only. 8 years with possibility of parole after 5. He's considering it." Of course he was. Michael had always taken the path of least resistance. Why face 25 years when you could blame your wife and walk in 8? "Do you want to make a victim impact statement?" Morrison asked. "When it goes to sentencing, it might be difficult. He's your son. He tried to murder me for life insurance money. I think I can manage difficult." The trial was set for September. Pre-trial motions, discovery, the slow grind of the justice system. In the meantime, I had practical problems to solve. Money. Everything in the joint accounts was frozen pending investigation. I had $63 to my name and no access to my Social Security deposits. A victim services advocate helped me file emergency petitions for access to my own funds. The judge granted it after review, unfroze my accounts, nullified the joint account with Vanessa. Housing. The house belonged to Michael and Vanessa legally, but the deed transfer had been based on forged documents in the insurance application. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Reeves who took my case pro bono after reading about it in the Toledo Blade, filed to have the transfer reversed. The judge agreed. The house reverted to my name pending criminal proceedings, but I didn't want it anymore. Didn't want to sleep in the room where Vanessa had brought poisoned pills. Didn't want to walk the halls where Michael had discussed my death with his wife. I put it on the market in May. It sold in 3 weeks. I used the proceeds to buy a small condo across town, a second-floor unit with security doors and a doorman who actually checked IDs. Health. The gallbladder surgery had healed clean. Patterson monitored me personally, apologizing repeatedly for not noticing something was wrong. I told him it wasn't his fault. How could he have known? People trusted their families. That was the whole problem. Identity. I changed everything. New bank accounts at a different institution. New credit cards with fraud monitoring. New email address. New phone number. New passwords on every account. I moved through the world like a spy, checking over my shoulder, trusting no one. Chen became my closest friend. We had coffee every Thursday, played bridge on Saturdays, watched Jeopardy in the evenings. She never asked about Michael. She'd seen enough through her window that day to understand. Rosa came to visit in June. She brought her 3 kids, 10, 8, and 5, and homemade tamales. We sat in my new condo and ate while the children played with my neighbor's dog in the courtyard below. "You were right," Rosa said, "about going to the police. I should have done it immediately." "You had reasons not to." "Fear isn't a reason. It's an excuse." "You saved my life. That's more than most people would do." She'd gotten a lawyer after giving her statement to police. Detective Morrison had helped her file for a special visa available to crime victims who assisted law enforcement. The application was pending, but the lawyer was optimistic. Rosa might get permanent residency. Her kids might have a future that didn't include deportation fears. "I got a new job," Rosa said. "At St. Mary's still, but they promoted me. Facilities coordinator, salary, benefits, the whole thing. The administrator said I showed exceptional ethical judgment and personal courage. I didn't know how to tell her I was just scared of God's judgment more than ice." We laughed. It felt good to laugh. I hadn't laughed much since this started. September came. The trial began on a Tuesday. I sat in the courtroom every day, front row behind the prosecution. Vanessa looked diminished in her orange jumpsuit, hair pulled back without product, makeup forbidden. She glared at me twice. I stared back until she looked away. Michael looked broken, gray-faced, thin, older than 42. He'd taken the plea deal. 8 years for conspiracy and fraud, testifying fully against Vanessa. His lawyer had prepared him well. He answered every question with remorse and cooperation, painted himself as a weak man manipulated by a strong woman. The prosecutor showed the emails, read them aloud in court. "How long?" 2 weeks. "Better than she deserves." Michael cried on the stand, said he'd been in debt, desperate, not thinking clearly. Said Vanessa had convinced him his mother would want him to be financially secure. Said he'd never believed she'd actually go through with it. Lies. All of it lies, but effective lies. The jury looked sympathetic. His lawyer was good. Vanessa's trial was different. Her lawyer tried to claim the emails were fabricated. The pills were never tampered with. The signatures were legitimate. The evidence buried him. Handwriting experts, forensic accountants, the Detroit pharmacist testifying about oleander extraction. The jury deliberated for 4 hours and came back with guilty on all counts. 25 years. No possibility of parole for 15. Michael was sentenced a week later. 8 years, eligible for parole in 5. The judge recommended psychiatric evaluation and financial counseling. Recommended, not required. I made my victim impact statement the day of Michael's sentencing. Stood in front of the court and looked at my son while I spoke. "I raised you to be honest," I said, "to be brave, to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. I taught you right from wrong. Apparently I failed. Michael wouldn't meet my eyes. You decided I was worth more dead than alive. You decided $500,000 was a fair trade for your mother's life. You decided convenience mattered more than conscience. Mom," his voice cracked, "I'm not your mother anymore. You lost that privilege when you chose murder over morality. I hope 8 years gives you time to think about what you destroyed. Not just my trust, not just our relationship, but your own soul." I sat down. Michael was crying. I felt nothing. The judge gave him the full 8 years. I walked out of that courtroom and didn't look back. Life after, I established a foundation in Harold's name, the Harold Harper Foundation for Elder Protection. We funded legal aid for seniors, ran educational workshops about financial fraud, maintained a hotline for elder abuse reporting. Rosa became the community outreach coordinator. Chen joined the board. We helped 11 people in the first year, 32 in the second. I volunteered at the library on Tuesdays and Thursdays, taught a watercolor class at the community center on Wednesdays, took up yoga on Saturday mornings, built a life that had nothing to do with being someone's mother or someone's wife or someone's victim. Michael wrote letters from prison. I returned them unopened. He called twice. I blocked the number. Vanessa never tried to contact me. I was grateful. I turned 66 in November. Chen baked a chocolate cake. Rosa brought flowers. My book club sang Happy Birthday off-key. I blew out the candles and made a wish that I'd never have to forgive people who didn't deserve it. The wish came true. I slept soundly every night, dreamless and peaceful. I'd survived. That was enough. The call came on a Wednesday in March, exactly 1 year after Rose's warning in the hospital hallway. I was at the library, reshelving returns in the fiction section, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Harper? This is Warden Phillips from Maumee Correctional. Your son, Michael Harper, has been admitted to the prison infirmary. He's asked us to contact you. My hand tightened on the phone. Why? He collapsed during recreation time. They're running tests, but the doctor thinks it might be serious. He's requesting a visit. I'm not interested. Ma'am, with respect, if this is what we think it is, I don't care if he's dying. He tried to kill me. Tell him I said no. I hung up. My hands shook. I misshelved 3 books before giving up and sitting down in the reading nook by the window. Michael was sick, maybe dying, and he wanted to see me. The answer was still no. I went home, made tea, tried to read. The words blurred. The phone rang again an hour later. Different number. I answered without thinking. Dorothy? It's Patricia Reeves, my lawyer. Former lawyer, technically. We'd wrapped up the case 6 months ago. Patricia. I got a call from the prison about Michael. They told you too? The warden asked me to reach out. He thought you might respond better to me than to official channels. The answer is still no. Dorothy. Her voice was gentle. I'm not calling to convince you to go. I'm calling to make sure you've thought through what you'll feel if you don't. I've thought it through. He tried to murder me. That erases any obligation I have as his mother. I agree. But this isn't about obligation. It's about whether you'll regret not seeing him one last time if he dies in that prison. I stared out my window at the courtyard below. A mother pushed a stroller, her toddler reaching up to catch falling leaves. I won't regret it. Was I? I'd spent a year building a life without Michael in it. A year refusing his letters, blocking his calls, pretending I'd never had a son. It had worked. I slept soundly, ate well, functioned normally. The grief had faded to background noise, but if he died, that noise would become permanent silence. No chance for closure, no opportunity for him to apologize properly. No possibility of ever understanding why he'd done it. Did I need those things? I don't know, I admitted. The warden says you can visit Friday if you decide to go. Michael's stable for now, but they found a mass in his pancreas. If it's cancer, and if it's aggressive, he might have weeks instead of months. Pancreas cancer. Harold had lost a colleague to that. 6 weeks from diagnosis to death. Brutal and fast. I'll think about it, I said. I called Rosa that night. She came over with coffee and blueberry muffins, sat with me at the kitchen table while I explained. What would you do? I asked. Rosa stirred her coffee slowly. My father left when I was 7, came back when I was 25, said he was sick, wanted forgiveness. I told him to go to hell, every day. She met my eyes, but I still wouldn't change it. Some betrayals are too big to forgive just because someone's dying. He tried to kill you. I know, but he's still my son. Rosa reached across the table and took my hand. Then go. Not for him, for you. So you can look yourself in the mirror in 20 years and know you made the choice your heart could live with. Friday came. I drove to Maumee Correctional at 2 p.m. The prison squatted on the edge of town like a concrete toad, all gray walls and razor wire. I signed in, went through security, followed a guard down sterile hallways that smelled like industrial cleaner and despair. Michael lay in the infirmary bed looking 20 years older than 43. His skin was gray-yellow, his cheekbones sharp, his eyes hollow. An IV drip fed into his arm. He saw me and started crying. I sat in the plastic chair by the bed, kept my hands in my lap. The warden said you wanted to see me. Thank you for coming. I didn't think you would. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer, Stage 4. They say I have maybe 2 months. I'm sorry. I was surprised to find I meant it. Not sorry he was suffering. He deserved suffering. But sorry that life had brought us here, to this room, to this conversation. I need to tell you I'm sorry, Michael said. For everything. For the insurance, the pills, the whole plan. I was wrong. You tried to murder me. You chose money over your mother's life. I know, his voice broke. I know what I did. I live with it every day. Every single day I wake up and remember that I became the kind of person who'd kill his own mother for life insurance. Do you know what that does to you? Do you know what it's like to look at yourself in the mirror and see a monster? Because I didn't try to murder anyone. Michael slumped back against the pillows. I was in debt. $80,000 in credit card debt from Vanessa's spending. She said we needed to look successful, network with the right people, invest in our image. I couldn't keep up. And then she suggested the insurance thing, and it seemed like an answer. Just paperwork, she said. Just change some documents and we'd have security. It wasn't just paperwork. It was fraud and attempted murder. I didn't think she'd actually do it. The pills, I mean. I thought she was talking hypothetically. By the time I realized she was serious, I was in too deep. If I backed out, she'd tell the police it was my idea. I'd go to prison anyway. So you let her try to kill me. I didn't let her. I just didn't stop her. He looked at the ceiling, tears running down his temples into his hair. God, that sounds so much worse when I say it out loud. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I was weak and selfish and stupid, and I destroyed everything. I destroyed us. I looked at him, really looked. This man had been my baby, my toddler, my teenager. I'd watched him grow from a laughing 6-year-old losing his first tooth to a sullen 16-year-old angry about curfews. I'd been there for his high school graduation, his college acceptance, his first heartbreak. I'd loved him unconditionally for 42 years, and he'd loved me enough to cash in on my death. Why? I asked. Just tell me why. Why wasn't I worth keeping alive? Michael's face crumpled. You were. You are. I couldn't see it then. All I could see was debt and pressure and Vanessa telling me we deserved better. She made it sound so reasonable, so justified. Vanessa made it sound reasonable to murder your mother. Yes. And I let her. Because it was easier than admitting I'd married a monster. Easier than admitting I'd failed so badly at life that murder seemed like a solution. He coughed, harsh and wet. A nurse appeared, checked his vitals, adjusted his IV, left without making eye contact with me. Do you want my forgiveness? I asked when she was gone. I don't deserve it. Then what do you want? I want you to know I understand what I did. I want you to know I hate myself for it. I want you to know that if I could go back and change it, I would. I'd tell Vanessa no. I'd get help for the debt. I'd protect you instead of trying to profit from your death. He looked at me with Harold's eyes, red-rimmed and desperate. I want you to know I'm not asking you to forget. Just to know that I remember. Every day. Every hour. What I almost did to you. I sat with that for a moment. Okay. I know. You've told me. I believe you're sorry. I stood up. But that doesn't change anything. You're still the man who chose money over his mother. You're still the man who read emails about poisoning me and said okay. You're still the man who asked how long and accepted 2 weeks as an answer. I came here because I needed to see if there was anything left of the son I raised, if there was any part of you worth salvaging. I looked at him lying in that prison infirmary bed, dying at 43 because the universe had a sense of irony. I don't know. Maybe. But it doesn't matter, because the man I raised wouldn't have needed to ask that question. I walked to the door. I paused, hand on the frame. Didn't turn around. Can you... His voice shook. Can you forgive me? Someday? Not now. But someday? I thought about Rosa, about her father showing up 20 years later wanting absolution, about how she still regretted refusing him, even though she wouldn't change her answer. No, I said. I don't think I can. The drive home took 40 minutes. I cried for 35 of them, ugly sobs that made my chest hurt and my vision blur. I pulled over twice because I couldn't see the road. When I got home, Mrs. Chen was waiting on my doorstep with a casserole and a box of tissues. Rosa called, she said, Told me you went to see him. Like I just buried my son. You did, Mrs. Chen said gently. Just not the way most mothers do. We ate the casserole in silence. I went to bed early, lay awake staring at the ceiling, and waited to feel something other than empty. The call came 6 weeks later. Wednesday morning, 8:15. Warden Phillips again. Mrs. Harper, I'm calling to inform you that Michael Harper passed away this morning at 7:03 a.m. He went peacefully in his sleep. As his next of kin, you'll need to make arrangements for... Donate his body to medical science. Cremate whatever's left. I don't want ashes. I don't want a funeral. I don't want anything. Silence on the other end. Then, are you sure? He left you a letter. Would you like us to forward it? I called Rosa, called Mrs. Chen, called Patricia Reeves, told them all the same thing. Michael was dead. I felt nothing. Was that normal? There's no normal, Patricia said. Grief is weird. Relief is valid. You're allowed to feel however you feel. For 3 days, I went through my routine. Library Tuesday and Thursday, watercolor Wednesday, yoga Saturday. I ate meals, I slept, I functioned, I felt nothing. On day 4, Mrs. Chen showed up with her cats and a bottle of wine. You're in shock, she said. That's fine. Shock is protective, but eventually you're going to have to feel something. What if there's nothing to feel? Then you'll feel nothing. But I doubt that. We drank the wine. I got tipsy for the first time in 15 years. And then, sitting on my couch with Mrs. Chen's tabby cat purring on my lap, I started crying. I cried for the little boy who'd loved dinosaurs and hated broccoli. I cried for the teenager who'd taught himself guitar and played me songs on Mother's Day. I cried for the young man who'd called me every Sunday from college just to talk. I cried for all the versions of Michael I'd loved before he became the man who tried to kill me. Chen held me while I sobbed. Didn't tell me it was okay. Didn't tell me he was in a better place. Just held me and let me grieve. I'm glad he's dead, I said when I could talk again. Is that awful? I loved him, but I'm glad he's gone. Those things can both be true. They were both true. I loved the memory of who Michael had been, and I was relieved that the man he'd become was no longer in the world, no longer able to hurt me or anyone else. I didn't attend any memorial. Didn't mark the day. Didn't think about him unless I chose to. But sometimes, late at night, I'd think about that visit to the prison, about Michael lying in that bed, asking if I could forgive him someday. And I'd think, no, but at least you died knowing I tried to see if I could. That was the only closure I needed. The rest was just living. 18 months after Michael's death, I turned 68. The Harold Harper Foundation had helped 93 people by then. We'd prevented 12 elder fraud cases, assisted 21 domestic abuse victims over 60, connected 40 elders with pro bono legal aid, and educated hundreds through our workshops. Rosa and I had become a team. She handled community outreach. I managed operations. Mrs. Chen served as board president. We worked out of a small office on Madison Street, painted cheerful yellow with comfortable chairs and plants in every corner. People called our hotline at all hours. We answered. Life was good. Better than good. I had purpose, friends, independence. I'd rebuilt myself from nothing and created something that mattered. Then Vanessa requested a meeting. The letter came through her lawyer, a new one, not the public defender from the trial. Professional letterhead, careful language. Vanessa Harper respectfully requests an opportunity to meet with Mrs. Dorothy Harper for the purpose of making amends and discussing restitution. Harper is under no obligation to agree. This request is being made as part of Ms. Harper's participation in a restorative justice program. I read it 3 times, threw it in the trash, retrieved it an hour later. Don't do it, Rosa said when I showed her. She's manipulating you. That's what narcissists do. Maybe, or maybe she's actually sorry. You don't owe her anything. I know, but I'm curious what she thinks making amends looks like after attempting murder. Chen agreed with Rosa. She's dangerous. Even locked up, she's dangerous. Patricia Reeves, when I called her, was more measured. Restorative justice programs can be genuine, but they can also be manipulative. If you do this, do it in a controlled environment with a facilitator present. Don't go alone. Don't trust anything she says. I thought about it for a week. Then I called the lawyer back. I'll meet her, but it's on my terms. Facilitator present, public location, 2-hour time limit. If she tries anything, we're done. The meeting was scheduled for a Saturday in June at the county women's prison. The facilitator was a woman named Dr. Karen Walsh, mid-50s, kind eyes, decades of experience in prison mediation programs. Vanessa looked different. She'd aged hard, deep lines around her mouth, gray in her blonde hair, a thinness that suggested stress rather than health. She wore prison blues and no jewelry. Her hands were chapped. We sat across from each other at a table in a small conference room. Walsh sat at the head. "Thank you for agreeing to this, Mrs. Harper," Dr. Walsh began. "This is a voluntary meeting facilitated through our restorative justice program. Vanessa has asked to speak with you as part of her path toward taking responsibility for her actions. You're welcome to leave at any time. Are you comfortable proceeding?" Walsh nodded to Vanessa. "Go ahead." Vanessa looked at her hands. "I don't know where to start." "The beginning is usually good," Dr. Walsh said gently. "The beginning." Vanessa's laugh was bitter. "The beginning was when I decided I was entitled to more than I had. That's the real beginning." "I grew up poor," Vanessa said. "Like actually poor. Food stamps, evictions, utilities shut off poor. I swore I'd never live like that again. When I met Michael, he seemed like the answer. Stable job, good family, a mother who owned her house outright. I thought I'd finally be safe. So you married him for money," I said. "I married him because I loved him, but I stayed married when love faded because I needed the security." She looked up, met my eyes. "Your house, your retirement accounts, your life insurance. I saw all of it as mine eventually. Like an inheritance I was just waiting to collect. Except I wasn't dead yet. You were alive, and healthy, and likely to live another 20 years. And Michael and I were drowning in debt. I'd overspent, tried to maintain an image we couldn't afford. When the credit card bills hit 60,000, then 80, I panicked. So you decided to kill me. So I decided to speed up the timeline." Her voice was flat, factual. "I told myself it wasn't murder if you were going to die eventually anyway. I told myself you'd want us to have the money. I told myself a lot of things that let me sleep at night. For a while. Then I got the pills from that pharmacist in Detroit and had to look at what I was actually doing. Poisoning an old woman recovering from surgery. That's not speeding up a timeline, that's murder. And yet you did it anyway." "I did it anyway." Vanessa's hands clenched on the table. "Because by then Michael was on board and backing out would mean admitting I was a monster. It was easier to keep going and hope you'd just die before I had to face what I'd become." Silence filled the room. Walsh took notes. "Why did you want this meeting?" I asked. "Because I owe you the truth. And because I'm trying to become someone who can live with herself. For the next 22 years, yes. 12 if I make parole." She leaned forward. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to understand or sympathize. I'm asking you to hear me say, I tried to kill you because I valued money over human life, and I will spend the rest of my existence knowing I'm the kind of person who does that." I studied her face. Looked for manipulation, for the calculation I'd seen when she was bringing me poisoned pills. I didn't see it. She just looked tired. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Nothing. I wanted you to know I understand what I did. That's all." "That's not all. You said something about restitution in the letter." Vanessa glanced at Dr. Walsh, who nodded. "I have some money. From before Michael and I got married. A trust fund my grandmother left me, about $32,000. I want to give it to your foundation. Because I can't undo what I did, but maybe I can help prevent it from happening to someone else. Your foundation helps people like you, people targeted by people like me. It seems appropriate. It seems like guilt. It is guilt. But it's also the only remotely useful thing I can do from in here." I looked at Dr. Walsh. "Is this legitimate?" "The money exists, and it's hers to donate. She's been working with our financial counselor to set it up. If you accept, it would go directly to the foundation as an anonymous donation. $32,000. That would fund our operations for a year, maybe 2 if we were careful. I'll accept it, I said. Not because I forgive you, but because the money can do good, and you're right that you can't. Vanessa nodded. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm taking your money to help protect people from people like you. There's nothing noble in that. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Dr. Walsh asked, Mrs. Harper, is there anything you'd like to say to Vanessa? Was there? I thought about Michael dying in that prison infirmary, about the life I'd rebuilt, about the people we'd helped through the foundation, about Rosa and Mrs. Chen and all the small kindnesses that had saved me. I hope you become someone different in here, I said finally. I hope you learn to value life over money, integrity over image. I hope you spend the next 22 years becoming someone worthy of the second chance you'll get when you're released. Then you'll die alone, despised and forgotten, like you deserve. Vanessa flinched. Fair enough, but if you do become better, I continued, then maybe your life will mean something other than attempted murder. Maybe you'll help someone else avoid your mistakes. Maybe you'll matter in a way that doesn't involve destruction. Do you think that's possible? I don't know. I didn't think it was possible to survive you, and here I am. So maybe anything's possible. Walsh looked between us. Is there anything else either of you needs to say? I shook my head. Vanessa did the same. Then I think we're finished here. Dr. Walsh stood. Mrs. Harper, thank you for your willingness to participate. Vanessa, I'll see you at our next session. I left without saying goodbye. Walked through the prison corridors, through security, out into the June sunshine. My car sat in the parking lot, hot from sitting in the sun. I climbed in and sat for a minute, hands on the steering wheel, breathing. I'd done it. I'd faced Vanessa, heard her confession, accepted her money. I'd looked her in the eye and told her exactly what I thought of her attempts at redemption. Not triumphant, not vindicated, just fine. I drove home. Rosa and Mrs. Chen were waiting at my condo with champagne and strawberries. How'd it go? Rosa asked. She gave us $32,000. Chen's eyebrows shot up. What? Trust fund. She wants it to go to the foundation. Are you taking it? Yes. Why wouldn't I? Let her guilt fund something useful. We toasted, ate strawberries, talked about what we'd do with the money, maybe hire an additional counselor, expand our hotline hours, increase our marketing budget. She's trying to buy absolution, Rosa said. She can try. She's not getting it. But we're getting funding and people are getting help. I'm comfortable with that equation. Chen raised her glass. To Dorothy, who survived murder and came out stronger. To all of us who survived, I countered, because none of us do it alone. 6 months later, the foundation held its first annual fundraising gala. We rented a ballroom at the Hilton, invited 200 donors and supporters, raised $80,000 in a single night. I gave a speech, stood on the stage in a dress the color of twilight and told my story. Not all of it. I kept the details private, but enough. Enough to make people understand why this work mattered. Enough to make them open their wallets. I almost died because people I trusted decided I was worth more dead than alive, I said. I survived because a cleaning lady I barely knew decided my life mattered more than her safety. That's the difference between cruelty and courage. Cruelty is easy. It's selfish. It's choosing yourself over everyone else. Courage is choosing to do the right thing even when it costs you. Rosa stood in the back of the ballroom watching. She smiled when I mentioned her. This foundation exists because I got lucky. Someone warned me. I believed her. I escaped. But thousands of elders every year don't get that chance. They die at the hands of family members they trusted, caregivers they depended on, professionals who were supposed to protect them. They die alone, confused and betrayed. I paused. Let that sink in. We can't save everyone, but we can save some, and some is better than none. Your donations tonight will fund legal aid, support groups, emergency housing, and protective services. Your donations will make sure that when someone whispers, "I'm being hurt," someone else is there to listen. The room erupted in applause. I stepped off the stage and was immediately surrounded by people wanting to shake my hand, share their stories, promise support. An old woman in a wheelchair caught my arm. My granddaughter tried to steal my house. Your foundation helped me get it back. How did you survive it? The betrayal, I mean. How did you not let it destroy you? I thought about that. I survived it by refusing to become it. They chose cruelty. I chose courage. Every day I wake up and choose courage again. That's how you survive. She nodded. Thank you. I met hundreds of people that night, heard dozens of stories, collected thousands of dollars that would help hundreds more. At midnight, I went home to my condo, took off my heels, and sat on my couch with a cup of tea. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Your speech tonight was beautiful. I watched it online. I'm proud of you. Patricia. My lawyer, keeping tabs from a distance. I smiled and texted back, thank you for everything. Her response came immediately. You did this. Not me. You built this life from nothing. That's all you. I set the phone down and looked around my condo, at the photos of me and Rosa and Mrs. Chen on the bookshelf, at the watercolor painting I'd done last month hanging on the wall, at the stack of foundation paperwork on my desk that represented hundreds of people we'd helped. Patricia was right. I'd built this. From the ashes of betrayal and murder and family destruction, I'd built something good. More than that, I'd thrived. The pills Vanessa gave me were supposed to kill me in 2 weeks. Instead, they'd led me to a life I'd never imagined. A life full of purpose and friendship and meaning. I'd never thank her for it, but I'd also never deny that her attempt to destroy me had somehow freed me to become more than I'd been. That wasn't forgiveness. That was just truth. And truth, I'd learned, was the only thing worth building a life on. I finished my tea, turned off the lights, and went to bed. Tomorrow I'd wake up and choose courage again. And the day after that, and the day after that, for as long as I had left, which I decided would be a very long time.